Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a special Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
How's my sound coming through? Jake, how's my sound? How's my sound over there in the chat? I had to readjust a setting.
Sounds good. I can't tell balance, though.
Yeah. No, I just had to readjust a setting because my app was not installed properly for this microphone. But we should be. We should
have
be
a
good.
new thing on the bookshelf.
Oh, cool. A little Wright Brothers model.
Little Wright Brothers model. I got to see the real thing at the Aerospace Museum, the first ever airplane. Listen, man, look at this. That took some balls to get on this thing. It's basically a glider with a motor.
Yeah.
A couple of propellers on the back.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd say it takes balls to get on that thing for sure.
Jesus.
100%. All right, folks, we got 673 in the Rumble chat, 496 on YouTube. I see what's going on. I see what you guys are doing, and I like it. It's disgusting what's going on here in East Berlin. Really disgusting. But we'll talk more about that on the Rumble side because we are switching to Rumble tonight for the Q&A. I am absolutely disgusted by this. It really is horrible. Horrible what they're doing now. But we said a year ago, Russell said they might just decide come election time, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And that's what's happening. And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But we'll talk more about that on the Rumble side because we are going to be doing our Q&A over there. So we got a big crowd over there, decent crowd filing in on YouTube as well. Thank you guys very much for being here. I got a lot to say tonight, but unfortunately most of it is about last night's Yankee game. And I can't really talk about that here without offending / boring a great majority of our audience. But hey, Virtuoso is in the chat. Virtuoso, if you want to call in on the Q&A, we could talk some Yankee baseball. Virtuoso is my resident Yankee fan. So why don't you call in? We could talk about the game last night. That was a wild game last night. That was one of the strangest playoff games I've ever seen. The Yankees played absolutely horribly, but somehow managed to pull out a win. But anyway, if Virtuoso calls in, we'll talk more about that. Otherwise, I will not subject the audience to my personal habits. Although I got to say, man, the real Americans were watching baseball yesterday. I understand there was a big gay rights event in Butler, Pennsylvania yesterday with a great turnout. And that's fantastic. That's really inspiring. You know, don't forget, I mean, yeah, this country, we passed gay marriage, 10 years ago. But in parts of the country like that, rural areas, for a bunch of people, a bunch of guys to just go out in the field and be open about who they are, it was inspiring. So, I mean, I'm happy for everybody who was able to make it there. But baseball was on. Yankee playoffs were on. That's where I was. That's where I was at.
Yeah. I hear Dylan Mulvaney is actually going to be doing a commemorative Bud Light can for the Butler rally.
Yeah, they should have sold those at the event yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to get to today, folks. Thank you guys very much for being here. Appreciate you all. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, please. And thank you very much. Like I said, Lots to get to, but let's start out with a little update on the labor front here. The port union agreed to suspend their strike. That's right. The International Longshoremen's Association agreed on Thursday to suspend a strike that closed down major ports on the East and Gulf coasts. The move followed an improved wage offer from port employers. The strike, which the dock workers union began on Tuesday, threatened to weigh on the economy 5 weeks before national elections. Employers represented by the United States Maritime Alliance have offered to increase wages by 62% over the course of a new 6-year contract, according to a person familiar with negotiations who did not want to be identified because the talks were continuing. That increase is lower than what the union had initially asked for, but much higher than the alliance's earlier offer. In a statement, the union said that it had reached a tentative agreement on wages and that its 45,000 members would go back to work, with the current contract extended until January 15th. The union said it was returning to the bargaining table to negotiate all other outstanding issues. The alliance issued a similar statement. So basically, they did not agree to the full 6-year terms. They locked in the 62% pay hike over 6 years. The rest has to be negotiated after November. And again, that speaks to the power of this action. They knew this was crunch time. They knew that there was a presidential election coming up, and they knew that a massive work stoppage would create too much economic disruption, especially for the incumbent party. And so they took their win of 62%. They locked that in, and now they still get to negotiate for all the other stuff until January. The agreement came after the White House pressed both sides to reach a deal to end the strike, the union's first full-scale walkout since 1977. The wage increase is a clear victory for the ILA and its combative president, Harold J. Daggett, a 78-year-old third-generation dock worker who has led the union since 2011. President Biden, when asked about the tentative deal on the tarmac at Joint Base Andrews on Thursday evening, said, "We've been working hard on it. With the grace of God, it's going to hold." A 62% increase would raise the top longshoreman's wage to just over $63 per hour at the end of a new 6-year contract from today's $39 per hour. And at $63 an hour, the wages of East and Gulf Coast longshoremen would slightly exceed those that will be earned by West Coast longshoremen who belong to a different union at the end of their contract in 2027. In the resumed talks, the issue of how much automation can occur at the ports could divide the sides. The union has also been pressing for improved retirement benefits, so that part of it is not settled yet. And Mr. Harold Daggett there didn't sound like he was bluffing when he said that they have to eliminate that automation entirely. What he did here, once again, was he didn't forfeit that. He punted on that until January and locked in the 62% wage increase so that they went back to work, so that there wasn't a massive shutdown as a nice October surprise. That's all Kamala Harris would need. Another potential sticking point is the pay of longshoremen who are just starting out and don't earn the top wage rate. Mr. Daggett's son, Dennis A. Daggett, a senior official at the ILA, said in an interview on Tuesday on a picket line in Bayonne, New Jersey, that the union wanted to get the higher wages for less experienced members. Around 3/5 of annual container trade goes through the East and Gulf Coast ports, including the Port of New York and New Jersey, the third busiest in the country and fastest growing ports in Virginia, Georgia, and Texas. The West Coast ports, which remained open during the strike, were getting close to capacity and would not have been able to absorb much more cargo diverted from East Coast ports. Well, that's why he said, what did he say? "I'll cripple you." We got to get that for the soundboard.
I'll cripple you.
That's got to be a
Today's
soundboard
world.
Yeah.
I'll cripple you.
I think that's a soundboard drop there. I think we should get that.
I think you're right. You know, that guy's 78.
Yeah, he's getting up there. Longshoremen who load containers and other cargo off ships and onto trucks and trains in general earn higher wages than workers in other blue-collar jobs. When moving large amounts of goods in and out of the country, there is no practical alternative to ports, and ports cannot operate without longshoremen, giving them a strong hand in labor negotiations. By going on strike and closing down the ports, the ILA deployed its leverage to get a higher wage offer from the Maritime Alliance. The employer group offered a raise of around 40% over the life of the contract, while the union sought 77%. The alliance then increased its offer to nearly 50% before both sides agreed to 62. So they started out at 40. These guys said they wanted 77, and they got them to come up quite a bit, about 2/3 of the way there. As businesses grew more concerned about the economic blow from a strike, they had pressed Mr. Biden to use the 1947 Taft-Hartley Act to force the longshoremen back to work. But throughout the dispute, he encouraged the sides to keep talking to reach a deal. At the Port of New York and New Jersey, nearly 60% of the longshoremen made $100,000 to $200,000 in the 12 months through June 2020, the latest figures available, according to data from an agency that helped oversee the port. But the ILA has asserted, rightfully, my edit, that the port employer can afford to pay them more, especially after making outsized profits during the pandemic surge in trade in 2021 and 2022. That's right. And as two New Yorkers, we can tell you, New York and New Jersey, to earn a middle-class living requires a very high income. And so good for them. They used their leverage. We'll call this hashtag force the boat. That's my slogan for this. We have to refer to this as the force the boat.
Yeah, this is the way. This is the way. As they might say on The Mandalorian, this is the way. Unions shutting down industries with demands for higher wages. And you will see some people with that peasant mind say, oh, they're being greedy. Ben Burgess, I am shocked MSNBC published this. Ben Burgess wrote an article about this saying, the idea that strikes are only to be done if your employer is keeping you in abject poverty. Why? That is a negotiating tactic. And you are forcing management to give your workers better conditions, which again, as Keaton points out, especially in this part of the country, that's not a real living high on the hog wage. And you're talking about what the top earners will be getting. And
right.
if you look at that hourly, man, that's a hard job. What these guys are going to be getting, it's what I got as a tour guide.
Right.
By the time I left tour guiding, I wouldn't go to work for less than 60 an hour. And I was not doing what these guys are doing. Now, of course, that's not an 8-hour-a-day job, so it's not as much money as it sounds like. You physically cannot do that job.
Right. You don't make that kind of money as a tour guide, but the hourly rate is the same, yeah.
But the hourly rate is what these guys are asking for. So should a tour guide get more than they do? There is a tendency to think, because it's a job that requires a certain kind of a type of education, that, yeah, you should get. I don't believe that. I don't see it that way. I couldn't do their job. Right. So why should they get paid less? Because they can't be a tour guide? Like, why do we value, history? Like, is that real? Is that really, when the rubber hits the road, is that more valuable than the skills you have to be a longshoreman?
Right.
Like, in reality, in the real world, that's just a value that we have because the children of the professional managerial class tend to have that skill set.
Right.
And really, you see this if you read Atlas Shrugged. Look, Ayn Rand makes some interesting points there. But where you really see her hypocrisy, other than the fact that she took welfare herself, where you really see her hypocrisy is in the way she treats unions. Because she's laying out this case throughout for capitalism as being moral, as having an underlying morality, because it is based on the competition where the strongest, the best, the most efficient, the smartest are going to rise to the top. But as soon as it comes to labor, leveraging everything she's talking about to get a higher wage, they're thieves, they're vermin, they're criminals.
Right.
If you are the brilliant industrialist capitalist negotiating a better price for steel, you're a genius. You are a classical ideal of Greco-Roman proportions.
Well, that's
but
literally
if you're a
it.
laborer, you're
yeah.
vermin.
Yeah. No, Atlas Shrugged is if you make life too hard on the rich, the Atlas holding up the world will shrug and the world will fall apart because, well, if you're going to beat me up, then fuck you. I'm not doing this. Right. Well, this is what Harold Daggett said here. You don't give my men what they earn. We're not showing up. That's it.
Right.
We're done. Whatever happens, happens. That's him. That he's doing the exact same thing that the capitalist class does all the time. But when working class people do it, they're demonized as class warriors. The New York Post ran that article about Harold Daggett's, oh, he lives in a mansion and drives a Bentley. Yeah, I'm sure he's a wealthy guy. He's a union president. That doesn't change the fact that he's using every ounce of leverage he has to get higher wages for his workers who bust their ass. Don't forget, you probably can't do that work until you're 65. I mean, you're talking about back-breaking manual labor. And so he knew that the companies had it. That's ultimately what gave him the leverage. They're making billions of dollars now post-pandemic. I know they can afford to pay us this. We're not working unless we get this. And notice the difference in strategy between Harold Daggett and Sean Fain. Harold Daggett didn't do this bullshit. Well, we're going to shut down 10% of the ports first, and then there's going to be heavier traffic at the ports that are still open, and then we'll shut down more. He didn't do the rolling, sit down, stand up, whatever the fuck cockamamie bullshit the UAW did. He said, no, all at once, we're closed. Those boats are not coming in. I will cripple you. And what happened? They caved in 2 days. In 2 days, they came up more than 50% off of their previous offer. 22% total, but 50% of the previous offer. They went from 40 to 62%. They caved that much in 2 days.
Right.
Why? Right. Because he was not fucking around. So when we talk about a general strike, when we talk about, oh, what's going to happen if there's massive work stoppages, because a lot of people, understandably, get a little intimidated by that. Well, what's going to happen? Are there going to be months gone by where nothing functions and there's going to be a run on goods at the stores and the supermarkets? No, ideally, a strike is precise, it is aggressive, and it is short. Because if you do it right. You demonstrate from the outset, from before the outset, I will cripple you. We are not fucking around here. And if you do that, capital will cave pretty quick because they need the economy to run in order to get paid. So this doesn't have to be prolonged. It shouldn't be prolonged. That's not the point. The point is you say, we are not bluffing. We are all stopping. And if you want this great system of yours to function, you're going to have to pay us what we want. That's what happened here. Now, it'll be very interesting to see what happens in 90 days because they didn't seem to be bluffing about the automation piece of this either. What they did was they took the massive wage win because now that is now locked in for 6 years. They took that to the bank, they locked that in, and now they get to negotiate for the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what workers should be doing across industries. This whole thing really, it started with Patco. It started when Reagan broke the air traffic controllers. And this was really framed in the press like, good for him. Wow, he didn't take their shit. And a lot of working people absorbed that mindset. And they've all been turned into Randians. I mean, this really ties into the Butler rally. It's mostly working people out there in that crowd. What the fuck you cheering for $2 billion for?
Yeah.
Why you think Elon Musk gives a shit whether you live or die? Do you think he cares about you? He's a fucking Trump interviewing him started talking. Oh yeah, I like what you do. You fire everybody.
Right. When they strike, you tell them to get lost. Right. Which is illegal, by the way.
Right. When they try to unionize at Tesla, he fires people. So why are you cheering for that if you're a working person? I understand if you're rich, but sure. But if you're a working person, that's the peasant mind. You have to de-peasantize your mind. These people are not your friends. Not only are they not your friends, they are your mortal fucking class enemies. That's how you have to see Donald Trump. That's how you have to see Elon Musk. That's how you have to see Mark Zuckerberg. Just because they said some shit, Elon tweeted out some shit about pronouns that you like, all of a sudden he's your buddy.
Right.
Your buddy, you're gonna be playing some holes with Elon sometime soon. He's not your buddy. He's your mortal fucking enemy. If you are cheering for these people, you're a peasant. You need to stop thinking that way.
Yes, I agree. And I thought the same thing, actually, when we were piecing together this segment, that to see this happening and then you have this field of people fawning over as Elon Musk takes the stage. I mean, it's just, look, okay, I'm going to try to not be as much of a downer as usual tonight. See, I caught myself there. I'm going to try to be a little bit brighter, all right? But you look at that, and it's hard. Anyway, moving on.
You know what, man? I've been watching this guy. I sent you his video. It's very interesting. So there's a channel. Some of you might know it. I asked Tusker. She knew the channel. There's a channel, More Perfect Union, that has an enormous channel for a channel whose host is a communist, like hardcore communist. Apparently, he started out doing a science-y kind of channel, and those channels do pretty well. Hey, can we have a hydrogen future? He was doing one of those, and I guess he got radicalized over the course of his career. So now he's doing this like pretty hardcore left-wing channel that has over 1 million subscribers, which you almost never see.
I think it's called Second Thought. Is that the one that you have? I have it on my thing here. Second Thought. More Perfect Union is the other one. They're the Twitter account. Hang
on. Let me look at my thing. See, I'm promoting the wrong one.
Yeah. Second Thought, it's called. Yeah. The most dangerous thing in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, that's what you sent me.
Yeah. That's Second Thought.
So Second Thought.
So this guy is he's really getting into that perspective. And it shows, man, it can be done. There is an audience out there for it. Like, we can challenge these right-wing channels that have these enormous numbers of subscribers. You just have to build it the right way, and he has good production values, which is something that is unusual for the West. You know, for the left, present company accepted. We do great production values around here.
Yeah, exactly. The bookcases. Eric Rousseau, Iron Maiden rocked San Diego. Thanks,
I know.
Eric
I saw your pictures from that.
Well, speaking of Iron Maiden, so one of our fans who sent us a merch design for the Iron Maiden shirt, the merch will be coming online this week by hook or by crook. I'm going to try to get the supplier to jump on a Zoom call with me to teach me a little bit better how to set the merch store up. But there will be a soft open by Friday, no matter what. So keep an eye out for that. We'll send the links out and stuff. But importantly, if you're a Patreon member at the $15 a month tier or above, or a Locals member at $15 a month or above, and you have not yet received your T-shirt that comes with the membership, please email us, dudissidents@gmail.com. Just put patron T-shirt in the subject. Give me your shirt size and your shipping information, because we tried doing a round of shipments on our last supplier. Several of them did not go out. It was a nightmare. But this supplier that we have is the same that RBN uses. They tell us they process the orders in 24 hours. So when we put the orders in for you, they should go out the next day. So if you are at $15 a month patron tier or above, and you have not gotten that shirt, send us an email, put patron T-shirt in the subject so we know how to sort them out, and we will get those to you very shortly. Thank you for your patience on that. We apologize for the delay. It was really beyond our control.
And just one more time, I got Tusker blowing up my phone now. It is Second Thought.
Yeah, that's it. Second Thought. Yep.
Not More Perfect Union, but yo, man, check out his shit. His videos it's very interesting because, honestly, let's face it, the left, they don't tend to be slick. That's like very nice, professionally produced videos with a point of view that's that far left, like not at all lib, not social democrat, like hard left. I don't think I've ever seen it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's very rare.
Awesome. Madara 1973, new member. Love the way you covered our UPS strike. Well, thank you. Now that the world is ending, that seems so inconsequential. Keep up the great work. Hey, we still need to move products, still need to move stuff. Let's see here. Abiding, Corn Pop once got busy in a K-Hive boiler room bathroom. There you go. Thanks, Abiding 71. Appreciate that. very much. Noah Goop, the Boeing Aerospace Museum in Seattle is pretty cool. Creepy glorification of bombs and shit aside. Interesting. Thank you, Noah. Freebie for life. Thanks for the $10. Just watched Ruckus, and it was awesome. Thank you so much. Jose is the real deal. Right after that, I joined Rumble Premium. Cool. No more swearing because an ad pops up in the middle of a good point. Thanks for all you do. Thank you very much. Well, thank you on both of those fronts. We'll be doing a Rumble Premium ad tonight. It's especially relevant, I think, to do one at a time like this. But thank you. Yes, thanks to those who tuned into our screening of Ruckus last night, the Jose Vega documentary. I would imagine most of you tuned in last night hadn't seen it yet because when we first screened it, we were less than half the size that we are now. And so we got a lot of great feedback on that. And that is now in our video library.
Than half.
Yeah, way less. Yeah. All right, we got some super chats here. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $20. Keaton Russ, this is Gator Pete. I have like $8 to my name until I get my Social Security on the 16th. Well, don't give us money then. Save that money, please. Yeah, please be careful. Jeez.
I've been there, man. I've been there. That's rough.
It is rough. By the way, which is the date I go to surgery. That's right. You're going for surgery on the 16th. I just want to thank you for everything and asked if the DD family prays for me. That's right. Thoughts and prayers for Peter in the chat. Put a heart up for Peter in the YouTube chat, everybody. Those little heart emojis that you could do. Put those up for Peter now. Thank you. Amadeus, thanks for the $5. Russ, quote Shakespeare. Also, Russ, one time I made a raft out of dead monkey heads. Thank you, Amadeus. Appreciate that. All right. Excuse me. DC, thanks for the $5. Savvy just censored me from YouTube live chat for criticizing Jill Stein's political opportunism and exploiting the Gaza genocide for personal profit. Well, I'm not sure she's exploited it for personal profit, DC. I mean, we won't ban you for the chat, but I don't know how much she gets paid off of that. But they had a worker strike back event in Dearborn today with the Abandoned Harris people and Jill Stein, and that was streamed on RBN's channel. We'll probably cover that on Tuesday. David Watson, thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my views on this have been nuanced. I think there's a tendency to go right to that, like Jordan. A lot of people say, well, Jordan, man, it's too bad he gets into these feuds and has really bad takes on other people's channels because he does really important work on poisoned water. Oh, he's just doing that to exploit them. Listen, that is not where the fucking money is in this business. And I've met Jordan a few times. He's not a dumb guy. He knows. That the money is not in staying on the Flint story. Right. So to just say, oh, yeah, they're exploiting it. There are easier ways to make money if you want to just make money off politics. If you just want to be a political personality and make money, there are much easier ways to make money. So I think to say Jill Stein's exploiting it for that, you're way off base, man. I don't think that the Green Party is nefarious. I think they're infiltrated. But again, I don't know what, and Jill said that when I interviewed her. She didn't say no. How would you stop that if you started a third party in this country? Jesus Christ, man. You start a third party in Bolivia, the fucking CIA is going to infiltrate it.
That's right.
Like, can you call out these personalities and call the figures in the party and blame them for that reality? I don't think so. And again, we're at a moment where Jill Stein's leading with Muslims now?
In certain states, in Michigan. Yeah.
Oh man. Support.
Yeah, it's one month away. That's it.
Support.
Then you can, then it doesn't matter what they are as an institution. It really doesn't. I mean, I don't think they're going anywhere as an institution. I think Sharma gets that too.
I think after this election, we're going to have a real reckoning with how the left moves forward as a group. And this whole algorithm-driven circular firing squad, that shit's got to stop, or the only people who are going to benefit are our enemies.
David Watson, thanks for the $10. I come for the inspirational nihilism, but I stay for the camaraderie. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate that very much. All right, we will move on here. All right, Russell, we got this Chappell Roan segment. Russell knows about Chappell Roan. I had no idea who this person was.
All right. I get cross-legged when it gets serious, man.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So Chappell Roan got my attention first before she even ran afoul of the K-Hive, which is really why we're doing this story. But she got my attention because she is interrogating the assumptions that we have about fame in ways that I must say I grew up rough and I grew up in a different time. My first instinct when I hear about people saying they need mental health space is definitely toughen up, Buttercup. But actually I started to rethink that a little bit as she started to express her point of view. So this is one of many think pieces that have been done about her recently, particularly since she ran into the K-Hive buzzsaw. Chappell Roan got too famous too fast. Though real diehards have known about her since 2020, for the general public, Roan has rocketed from anonymous to ubiquitous in less than a year. Her debut album, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, was released in September 2023, but didn't crack the Billboard 200 chart until April. By July, Roan had a half dozen songs on the Hot 100. This summer, the Times ran a story on the rapid upscaling of her live tour. She went from playing a 600-person venue outside Sacramento to drawing an estimated 80,000 at San Francisco's Outside Lands Festival. Up until the European cancellations, Roan was an endearing story of overnight success, the quirky theater kid who'd made good while remaining honest and unfiltered, and most supporters agreed with her decision to draw a firm boundary against pushy fans. But the canceled shows set off the first rumblings of a backlash, one so predictable Roan even put it in her album title. The downside to her rapid ascent is also becoming increasingly clear. Chappell Roan got famous before her brain did. Roan hasn't had the time to learn how to protect herself against the glare of the spotlight, nor to gain the financial resources other celebrities use to closet themselves from the world. She's fallen into an unmanageable level of notoriety, famous enough to have stalkers, not rich enough to hold up on Lake Como. Adding to Roan's difficulties is that she carries a burden of representation that the others don't. As an outspoken advocate for the queer community, she now finds herself in the Dylan-esque position of being treated by her fans as not just a singer, but a truth teller. Okay, so I put together a video montage of some of the encounters she's been having. So she put this out, which this is really where I started to notice her. Her music, I've just said, Keaton, did you get a chance to listen to
Yeah, no, it just occurred to me. That was the one piece of homework I forgot to do. I'm like, what did I forget to do? Oh, yeah, I forgot to listen to Chappell Roan.
Okay, so
I literally had no idea who this person is. None. When this story broke, I had no idea.
I am hipper than Keaton.
Much
hipper than Keaton. She's doing this kind of 80s thing. She definitely owes a lot to Cyndi Lauper. She's got a good ear for a hook. Like, her songs will definitely give you earworms. I'm of the opinion that the nature of the music industry today is such that nobody who's really musically original is going to break through because they're just not even going to get a contract with a record company. So I don't find her stuff original. It's well done for what it is. It's very derivative of 80s pop, but in a good way. And I think she's hitting the zeitgeist the way that she is, because in many ways she is a perfect representation of her generation. She's drawing on these older traditions, but she's doing it as an openly gay woman, which she presents in a way that is woven into her music in a way that doesn't feel pretentious, that doesn't feel like it's attacking the audience. It's just, okay, this is who I am as a person. Fine.
That's great. In fact, the K-Hive is pissed she didn't endorse Kamala, but given, she's very open about her sexuality, she really should have opened for Elon and Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. They're lucky she didn't do that. She would have fit in great there.
She would have.
Great display of pride.
This is almost what people were expecting from her. Very, very unjustly. And I think that's part of why they're so angry that she won't endorse Kamala, because, God damn it, she's a queer pop star. They're supposed to own her. She's supposed to be up there with Springsteen and Beyonce and Taylor Swift at a fundraiser. How dare she have her own thoughts? Right. But again, in this, as we'll see later, her politics are very much right in the zone of her generation, and I think that's a big part of why she's blown up this way. So unlike a lot of her predecessors, she's interrogating what a famous person is supposed to put up with. For the past 10 years, I've been going nonstop to build my project, and it's come to the point that I need to draw lines and set boundaries. I want to be an artist for a very long time. I've been in too many non-consensual physical and social interactions, and I just need to lay it out and remind you, women don't owe you shit. I chose this career path because I love music and art and honoring my inner child. I do not accept harassment of any kind because I chose this path, nor do I deserve it. I turned off comments because I'm not looking for anyone's response. This isn't a group conversation. I understand that this is jarring to hear from a person in my position. I'm not afraid of the consequences for demanding respect. Just to let you know, every woman is feeling or has felt similar to what I'm experiencing. This isn't a new situation. If you see me as a bitch or ungrateful or my entire statement upsets you, baby, that's you. You got to look inward and ask yourself, wait, why am I so upset by this? Why is a girl expressing her fears and boundaries so infuriating? This is all. Thank you for reading. All right. So, yeah, maybe if she had gotten famous more slowly, they would have broken her in and she wouldn't be asking these questions. I think these questions are valid. Like I said, I had my initial knee-jerk reaction, and the more I thought about it, the more I said, our modern type of fame has only been around for a little over 100 years, since the invention of film and recording. You couldn't mass distribute an image that way until relatively recent times. Sarah Bernhardt, the most famous actress of the 19th century, I'm sure she could walk down the street without being bothered most of the time.
Well, sure.
Most people would not have recognized her. You didn't have this type of modern fame until relatively recently, and it was almost no sooner than we had it than we started to make films about the dark side of that kind of fame, All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard, right? About the price of fame and what it does to people. For the first time, virtually, particularly somebody early career like this, we've seen people who have late in their career interrogate the nature of fame, but somebody on the way up to say, hey, you know what? Why should my family being stalked come with the territory? Like, why should I have to put up with that? So I put together a video of some of her more notable public moments. So we'll take a look at that and discuss.
I just want to be honest with the crowd, and I just feel a little off today because I think that my career's just kind of gone really fast, and it's really hard to keep up. And so I'm just being honest that I'm just having a hard time today. This is all I've ever wanted. It's just heavy sometimes. So thank you for that.
I just wanted to share that I'm very fortunate and grateful to have my dream job. This job is very difficult for me to process and maintain a healthy life and mindset. I already have difficulty regulating my emotions because I have bipolar 2 disorder. Everything is very exciting right now, and I'm realizing that success actually makes me quite uncomfortable and self-conscious, and I'm not sure why yet. This career is fucking hard. I'll be fine per usual, but thank you everyone for the continued support.
Quite overwhelming and quite scary. I think for someone who gets a lot of anxiety around people yelling at you, the carpet is horrifying. Yeah. And I yelled back. I yelled back. You don't get to yell at me like that.
I need you to answer questions. Just answer my questions for a second. If you saw a random woman on the street, would you yell at her from the car window? Would you harass her in public? Would you go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?" And she's like, "No, what the fuck?" And then you get mad at this random lady? Would you be offended if she says no to your time because she has her own time? Would you stalk her family? Would you follow her around? Would you try to dissect her life and bully her online? This is a lady you don't know. And she doesn't know you at all. Would you assume that she's a good person? Assume she's a bad person? Would you assume everything you read about her online is true? I'm a random bitch. You're a random bitch. Just think about that for a second, okay? I haven't...
Okay. So, I think there's a tendency, and again, it was my first reaction. Well, what do you think fame is going to be like? And okay, unreasonable is to think that you're just going to be able to go to the supermarket ever again. And if you're going to get into this field, and she was in it for 10 years before she hit, you got to understand that. At the same time, I see this as an extension of certain things like Me Too, which, yeah, there have been excesses around that movement, and we've talked about it. I've certainly talked about it. But the core premise, especially coming out of theater, I never questioned the need for that. I mean, the abuse of women and in some cases men is horrific in the entertainment industry. And until people really said, hey, why do we accept that this is just the way it is? Those things couldn't change. She's asking, I think, valid questions. Why do we assume that somebody who's famous has to put up with being treated that way? Can you stigmatize it the way we stigmatized sexual harassment with Me Too?
Well, I think it's also, now it's even harder to separate that sort of work life from, the lifestyle of a rich and famous person, because in the social media age, you're forced to commodify yourself. You are the product to such a large extent. Like the article draws the Bob Dylan comparison. Dylan has always been this sort of enigmatic figure who you didn't really hear much about in terms of his private life, especially now later in his life. You hardly hear anything about him for the last several decades, really, since the whole Christian conversion thing. Right. But that was because back then you didn't have to commodify yourself. There was the work, and then there was your personal life. Now that line is very blurred, because now in order to take off, you have to be on Instagram. Right. I mean, you can't make it as a celebrity if you're not on Instagram now, not as a young person like this. So that line is even blurrier now than it's ever been, to the point where now, of course, come election season, they expect you to say what they want. And when you don't, this happens. So we can. Yeah, that's the next part.
Right. So she went ahead already having a lot of problems. And she did an interview with The Guardian where she had the temerity not to endorse Kamala. She said, I have so many issues with our government in every way. There are so many things that I would want to change. So I don't feel pressured to endorse someone. There's problems on both sides. So, of course, the liberals reacted to this with measured consideration of this 26-year-old gay woman, kind of their cultural ideal. Oh, no, no, no. This is Charlotte Clymer, who has a following. This is an excessively privileged position to take. We're going to win. VP Harris will be elected, and it's because of the many thousands of staff and volunteers and tens of millions of reasonable adults who understand life under Trump again would be horrific for all of us.
So if you think you're going to win, then what's your problem? If you're so confident you're going to win anyway, then what do you care what she thinks?
What do you care?
It just shows how stupid the libs are. Like, I didn't even know who this woman was. Imagine not only knowing who she is, imagine being offended that she doesn't endorse Kamala Harris. Imagine caring who she endorses or doesn't endorse.
Well, and what's funny is her whole deal is right in their sweet spot of exactly the kind of young person that they claim to care about. Right. This queer Zoomer woman with bipolar disorder. See, this is another thing. This is why I say, like, she hit the zeitgeist just right. Even the way she's experiencing fame, where she's basically going on Instagram and talking about her bipolar disorder and how she doesn't want people grabbing her. Like, she is a perfect representative of Gen Z. And for the libs, that's supposed to mean they own her ass.
Right. That means a certain fealty is required. That's like paying your dues.
Right. Maya Luna. Chappell Roan is an embarrassment to lesbians. She's a lesbian author, I believe. You can't borrow from drag aesthetics and embrace your sexuality and then pretend the party that would criminalize our happiness is the same as the one who protects it. Okay. Jeremiah Johnson. Every quote from Chappell Roan is what a shallow person thinks a deep person would say.
Or always thought what a 26-year-old would say.
It's she's
who's not a public intellectual. She's a musician.
Exactly. Who did not ask to have her political opinion solicited in this way.
Right. That's the thing. They
she didn't stand up to be representing her generation's politics. She didn't ask for that. All right. So first she did a video trying to clarify. Apparently she has an uncle who's a Republican state rep. So, you know, of course people decide, well, she must be a Trumper. That's clearly what she's saying with at length talking about how central trans rights are to her. She must be a Republican. All right, so let's take a look.
Encourage people to use critical thinking skills, learn about what they're voting for, learn about who they're voting for, and ask questions. And it's being completely taken out of context. This is my third election in voting, and the world is changing so rapidly, and I want to be part of the generation that changes things for good because we need it. No, I'm not voting for Trump, and yes, I will always question those in power and those making decisions over other people.
All right, so that cleared it up, right? The libs went home, packed up their tents, went home. She's not voting for Trump. No, that wasn't good enough. The pile-on ensued, and she did a follow-up video in response to the pile-on, which I got to say, even at our not even a smidgen of the level of what she's experiencing, hopefully what you will learn from this is don't feed the trolls.
Right. Don't feed the trolls.
They're never going to be satisfied. It doesn't matter what you say. It's not about honest argumentation. They're not after that. They're trying to get to you. And the more you respond, the happier they are.
Exactly.
Just woke up. And to like people just skewing it even more, endorsing and voting are completely different. I don't agree with a lot of what is going on with like policies. Like, obviously, fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left. That's why I can't endorse. That's why I can't like put my entire name and my entire project behind one because there is no way I can stand behind some of the left's completely transphobic and completely genocidal views. So yeah, there are huge problems on both. You know what is right and wrong, and so do I. Fuck Trump for fucking real, but fuck some of the shit that has gone down in the Democratic Party that has failed people like me and you. And more so, Palestine.
Oy, careful there.
And more so, every marginalized community in the world. So no, I'm not gonna settle for what the options that are in front of me. And you're not gonna make me feel bad for that. So yeah, I'm voting for fucking Kamala. But I'm not settling for what has been offered, because that's questionable.
Yeah, and the liberal douche that we're going to see now in a section of the video I didn't use actually points that out, because he's that kind of douche. Okay, this is a perfect example of what we've talked about a lot, how Palestine was very eye-opening for people like this. Because I very much doubt, from listening to her, that she had any particular foreign policy views a year ago. This really forced them to confront how horrible the foreign policy is of the Democratic Party. In terms of them being transphobic, I would imagine that she has views on that I would disagree with, because I don't see what you could possibly mean regarding the Democratic Party, unless it's, you want water coolers with puberty blockers in them available in public junior high schools. Like, I don't know what you could be talking about. So I'm not saying, yes, I'm completely down with her. But hey, man, she's very emblematic, I think, of what's happening with her generation, where they started out with these kind of social justice politics, and then seeing the horror of this genocide pushed them into what I would consider more substantial objections to our political system. And this is a nightmare for them. This is a nightmare for them, because it's not just her. It's not just her. She represents a lot of people. And there has been a lot of support coming from people her age saying, yeah, no, I mean, that's how a lot of people feel. Why don't you leave her alone?
Right.
So here's a lib. Okay, you want to see where the grift is? You want to see where the money is? This lib made a response video to her. We're going to see a little bit of it, not all of it. 8.4 million views. This guy has 14,000 followers on X. 8.4 million. It's a lot of gold in them our lib hills, man.
Vote for who, in your mind, is the best option for what we have right now.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is definitely our best option right now, as well as all the Democrats up and down the ballot.
And I hope this makes it clear that no, I'm not picking the sides of what we have right now.
I mean, it kind of sounds like you've picked a side in terms of voting for Kamala Harris, but you just don't know much about the rest of the Democratic platform. But you can certainly read it. It's online.
How many degrees does that guy have?
Obviously better than the other.
Notice how many degrees he has behind him.
Getting back on the same page again.
But Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh boy.
I hope you don't settle for what we have and put your name behind someone that you don't fully trust.
I fully trust that Kamala Harris and all the Democrats up and down the ballot are going to protect democracy and make this country a better place.
All right, good. So vote. So then what's the problem? So you vote for who? Like, they are just the shallowness of these people to be this invested in the political preference of someone like this. It shows you where their head is at. It shows you just what hollow starfuckers they all are, right? Because their entire politics is all about social cachet. That's what their politics is, right? That's why they won't say anything about the genocide, because that can cost them some social cachet. The issues that buy them social power are the ones that they invest in, and the ones that pose some threat to that are the ones they don't touch. And maybe that explains some of their celebrity obsession psychologically, because they're used to getting what they want from Beyonce and Taylor Swift and, you know, George Clooney, right? They're used to being able to look to these people because the fact that they express their politics is validation, not only of their politics, but of their personhood. Like to them, politics is self-expression. So as much as that can be reflected in the upper echelons of society, be it finance, politics, or entertainment, that's what they're in it for. And so that must be what explains why they just can't let this go. To a person who I never heard of this person until a few days ago.
Well, this is also what Caleb Maupin got into a lot in his book about Kamala, and we talked a little bit about it in the interview. The form of leftism that they embrace is a form that had always been the province of upper class intellectuals. It's a left of personal expression as being the basis of your leftism, a constant expansion of personal rights and personal freedoms. Now, the funny thing about her and her generation generally is they very much are the end product of a decades-long effort to create a left that would have the rebellious pose of fighting power without the substance of fighting power.
Right.
After October 7th, they found the substance. They found actual substance of fighting power. And it's turning an entire generation against the liberal class and its proxy, the Democratic Party. So this is terrifying for them. I don't think it's an accident that she's one of the younger pop stars coming up and she's refusing to play ball. We saw the same thing with Boy Genius when Obama came out and talked about them being on the playlist, his summer playlist. And they were like, fuck that guy.
Right.
I mean, it was not in those exact words, but that was basically what they said.
No, they called him a war criminal.
They called him a war criminal. So this is what you're seeing with these younger. Boy Genius also is a gay band. You're seeing these social justice politics finally starting to find some substantive critique of these parties, of the government. It seems like a lot of people this age really see through, Harry Sisson accepted, really see through what the Democratic Party is and is not. Why did you do that?
No, because I accidentally cleared it from the queue because I didn't realize you weren't done with it yet.
Okay. All right. So,
no, that's the wrong one. This is it.
Yeah, you messed me up. All right. So, so after the libs were so charming to her, she dropped out of 2 appearances, one of them in New York. I would be tempted to go to one of these shows just to see everyone looking at me, wondering what I'm doing there. I apologize to people who have been waiting to see me in New York City and DC this weekend at All Things Go. But I am unable to perform. Things have gotten overwhelming over the past few weeks, and I am really feeling it. I feel pressures to prioritize a lot of things right now, and I need a few days to prioritize my health. I want to be present when I perform and give the best shows possible. Thank you for understanding. Be back soon. Now, again, look, I come from a different time, and I come from a kind of rough area. Yeah, this whole like Simone Biles, I have to prioritize my mental health. My first instinctual reaction is suck it up. Upon consideration, do we really need to continue to idealize the self-destructive, flame out famous person? Like, maybe these people should get to take some space so that they don't wind up dead of a heroin overdose later on. Yeah, maybe Kurt Cobain should have done that. Maybe he'd still be alive today if he had here and there said, I need a mental health break. At that time, that just wasn't something you did. That's not something anybody ever would have said back then. And maybe it's better.
Well, also at this time, I mean, if you need a mental health break, if you need some time, put the phone down. The thing is, when you do all this, you just feed it. You just make it worse, right? Just put the phone down. See if you could make it without being on social media all the time. Maybe you can. At this point, you have a big enough following. Be good for you.
Sure. Now, happy ending to this story, because I'm rooting for her. I hope she pulls through all this. She had a very triumphant return to the stage a few days ago where she did a blistering, viral, and pointed cover of Barracuda, which was written by Hart as a kind of indictment of the industry and problems they had in the industry. So it's probably not an accident she picked that. So good for her, man. I got a soft spot for her. I hope things work out.
Yeah, Russell feels the way I do about she's Russell's Rachel Zegler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I would describe that.
No, hey, you know what? She accomplished, at least with me, I honestly rethought some of my assumptions. So, it's what an artist is supposed to do, right?
That's right. That's the name of the game. All right, folks. Like I said, we have been opening up our sponsorship opportunities to you, our dissidents. We would love to partner with some of you guys and promote some of your work. So if you would like to promote your stuff with us, go to dodissidents.com/sponsors. We've been moving some subscriptions to the Hebe and Goy podcast, as well as to a book that one of our subscribers had us read for, Love and Potato Salad. He moved some books last time, so we'll be reading that every couple of weeks. But we also have a political book and podcast project from our friend Stephen Cole's Full Crazy Town. So Full Crazy Town is a book describing the shit show, also known as the U.S. Empire. However, Full Crazy Town is not just another dystopian alarm bell. This book proposes a solution to this mess, which is reconnect over coffee. Gabor Mate says that extensive trauma resulted in the wake of the lockdowns and mandates. After Russiagate and the Hunter Biden cover-up, people became estranged from each other along identity politics lines. So after the pandemic's utter devastation of the economy and of people's lives, the government media complex kept stoking the fear fires, focusing on Trump and his minions. The war in Ukraine and the genocide in Gaza and beyond are mere examples of how citizens have been propagandized to accept forever wars and World War III, now ballooning out of control in Western Asia. The Democrats have flipped their base from anti to pro-war stances. Liberals ask authoritarians for more protection in the form of censorship, demonetizing, and the threats of arrest of anyone who doesn't toe the cultural line. Therefore, the only solution is to reconnect with those who we've become estranged over coffee, a meal, or just a calm, rational discussion without getting all emotional. So if you go to fullcrazytown.com, you can get the book there. That's fullcrazytown.com. You can get info on this book there, but you can also access a link to the podcast, which broadcasts every Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So that's fullcrazytown.com, book with a podcast project by our friend Stephen Cole. So go check out the website and go support our friend's work there. Let's support each other. Let's build our dissident economic base up. That's fullcrazytown.com. Thank you, Stephen, for partnering with us. Hope we nailed that for you. It was a good copy that you wrote there, my friend. That was impressive. I like it. All right, let's read some more Rumble rants and super chats. No war but class war, says Eric Cuso. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I am the Owl. Thanks for the $2. ILA exercises their leverage in a free market. Society deems it exploitation. Health insurance companies deny life-saving care in a closed-force monopoly. Society deems it savvy business practices. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. S.J. Tough, Keaton, endless war and the threat of nuclear annihilation happens to be a downer. I'm tired of shit libs telling me to think positive. There you go. Thank you. Me too. But I'm trying to curb that for one show. Give everybody a little chance to breathe.
We're thinking about starting a sister channel just for Keaton called Black Pilled.
Yeah, right. Exactly. See how long that one lasts.
It's just going to be Keaton in his boxers with a tumbler of scotch ranting.
Yeah, there you go. That would be fun. That'll be fun. Smoke some little mini cigars. Do it outside.
Or
Al fresco podcasting. Yeah. DC says, friend of the show Jimmy Dore censored me from Rumble live chat for criticizing his lack of pushback against Matt Walsh. Glad y'all stand on principle. Well, try us, DC. See how nasty you could be.
Yeah.
Feeling lucky? Feeling lucky? Virtuoso, thanks for the $5. Let's include Russell in the conversation. His Mets are on a magic carpet ride this postseason. They are. They lost a heartbreaker today, though. They played very well. But yeah, no, the Mets, I mean, that wild card game was insane. Absolutely insane. Exciting times for New York baseball, finally.
The Mets are choke artists, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how close they come. They're going to fucking blow the game. They're going to blow it in the clutch. Always. Always.
See, who's blackpilled now? See, I'm trying to be positive. Although most of the country doesn't like New York sports teams, although they mostly dislike the Yankees, not the Mets.
Yeah.
The Mets are America's underdog team. Thanks, JM, for the $2 and the thumbs up. Appreciate that. Putz the Mouse says, as always, I love you guys. Thank you, Putz the Mouse. Appreciate that very much. Michael Castillo, thanks for the $20, says, Keaton, I think Tucker Carlson looks like former Mets pitcher Al Leiter. Yeah, I could see that. Ficus, thanks for the $20. The longshoreman strike seemed way too narrow in its goals and potentially compromised from the start. They were going to block all shipments except for arms shipments, purposefully not hitting them where it hurts. Well, they could have and would have Taft-Hartley'd that. That's why. Right. They would have. They would have just broken it up had they done that, which is horrible, obviously. But it would have begun and ended there, which is horrible. I agree. Daggett has connections with the Genovese mob family. He is no hero. Hey, quiet. What, are you gonna get us? You gonna get us fucked up here?
You're gonna get us whacked.
You're gonna get us whacked. We can't be super. This guy super chats about that. Got to do something about these super chats. These super chats getting out of line. You know what I mean? Got to shut that down. If he's cool with negotiating with the private mafia, he's cool with working with the government mafia. I wish we had serious unions in the U.S. I think they did pretty good. And like I said, they are going to continue negotiating those other points. They just got the pay raise. The other points they did not concede on. They have till January 15th to work that out. That's why the person who talked to the Times didn't give his name, because apparently they're still negotiating. So let's see. Valerie Morris, thanks for the $1.99. Appreciate that, but you retracted your message. Did you delete your super chat message? I got the $2, but the message is not up there. Oh, here we go. All right. Here's Valerie again. Maybe you ran out of characters for $2. Hey, can we talk about Marara, a Kenyan leader who's fighting for real change like a Bernie Sanders of Kenya? He was recently targeted and almost killed, and he's currently in the hospital. Perhaps we could do that on Tuesday. We will look into that, but thank you. Can you imagine a channel that doesn't end every argument with communism bad, says Ficus. Thank you, Ficus. There you go. Excuse me. Alrighty. All right, folks. So there was a very nice event that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Like I said, big LGBTQ rally here.
YMCA.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he uses the YMCA. Think about that. He uses YMCA all the time. Butler rally looks like it has 90K in attendance, says Matt Jordan. Kamala can't get a fraction of this. All right, that's not 90K. That's an impressive crowd, but it's not 90K. The New York Post, Braveheart, 20,000. That seems more like it. That seems like a more realistic estimate. Yeah. Like Paul Simon in Central Park, that's 100,000. That's an endless sea of people. This was not. I mean, it was a good crowd, obviously. Wasn't 100K. 20,000 witnessed Donald Trump's triumphant return to Butler, Pennsylvania. So we'll take a look here. This is a moving image of the crowd. There's no sound on this video, but obviously quite the big crowd. And it was obviously a smart decision to come back to Butler, Pennsylvania, to grab some headlines. I mean, this definitely grabbed the news cycle today, and now you're in October, where the news cycle becomes very important because the race is so close. And as these macro issues of World War III and inflation and immigration, and now obviously, probably most importantly, the hurricane come into focus, this is when these big issues can really hurt the incumbent party, and they might. And Butler, Pennsylvania was the site, obviously, of the most tumultuous day of the campaign, but that was also the last day of the campaign where Donald Trump looked like the prohibitive favorite, like the prohibitive winner. Ever since then, it's been one disastrous decision after the next. And so to sort of come back here for a star-studded reset and get a crowd like this was obviously a smart move. And as you can see, it was a success by all objective measures there. Quite the big crowd. Donald Trump, as he teased out a couple weeks ago, began in very savvy style.
Thank you very much, really, and thank you, a very big thank you to Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. And as I was saying, oh, I love that. I love that chart. I love that graph.
But he was not alone. Of course, he brought Elon Musk with him. Now, this guy claims the full video was censored. He didn't exactly mention where it was. But here's Donald Trump introducing...
Instagram. Didn't he say Instagram?
Was it Instagram? Maybe. Instagram. And they permanently disabled my account. Okay, cool. Good catch on that. I must have overlooked that. All right, so here's Donald Trump introducing the special guest of the hour.
Astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Put a chick in it. Make her gay.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, you know, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight! Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire. So who do you want representing America? Yeah, absolutely. And I think this election, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime.
Oh yeah.
This is no ordinary election.
Oh yeah.
The other side wants to take away your freedom of speech. They want to take away your right to bear arms. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. You got 14 states now that don't require voter ID. California, where I used to live, is just passed a law banning voter ID for voting. I still can't believe that's real. So how are you supposed to have a proper election if there's no ID? It's just meaningless.
All right, so, you know, as I was saying, you know, the Yankees were terrible last night, but they still found a way to win. They still found a way to win. Garrett Cole was terrible. Those 3 balls in the first inning, they were all hit like missiles. The first one almost went out. The second one went into the gap. What was going to go into the gap for a double, if not a triple. Third ball was a line drive hit right at Aaron Judge. Then they had second and third, nobody out. First inning, didn't score. The only reason the Royals didn't rally in the second inning because they sent Perez around third base with nobody out and got him thrown out at home. The Yankees were blowing opportunities all night, and yet they still found a way to come. Oh, I'm sorry. What was the segment? Oh, is this rally here? This the most important election of our lifetime? It's so boring. I mean, they are so boring and banal. And you're right, that just the fawning over Elon Musk. That the fact that it's a crowd of working people out in the middle of Pennsylvania. These are ordinary people. I have nothing against these people. But they come out here and they clap.
Montgomery Burns for president.
I mean, yeah, man. Like it's just so depressing. It's so depressing. And notice there's nothing about anything that was said at this rally that has gone viral, except the Trump thing with as I was saying, that's a clever thing, you know, fine. But like, what is This is why I say it's about global neoliberalism versus feudalism. This is just a bunch of working people worshiping at the feet of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who talks about free speech in this speech here. How many accounts are banned on his platform that should not be banned? He shut down the uncommitted account as a troll during the convention. During the Democratic convention, he suspended their account and then released it after it was over. This is a guy who's committed to free speech. He caved in Brazil. That's a story that's nowhere to be found on Twitter. Interesting. Interesting that a story about Elon Musk's pussying out on free speech would be suppressed on Elon Musk's ostensibly free speech platform, and apparently here on YouTube as well. Jimmy did a segment on that got no traction whatsoever, despite being a big story.
Yep.
Which
then, honestly, I don't understand that.
I don't understand that. And then did a segment about how it got no traction and sneakily put it in the video, and that video got traction because it wasn't in the metadata. So it wasn't that there was no interest in the story. It's that obviously we're not supposed to know that story. So, look, like I said, I'm going to try to be in better spirits tonight. But when you look at this and you look at Kamala, God, is it depressing. God, is it depressing. I mean, there's just no moment where you can kind of come up for air and even breathe any sort of optimism whatsoever. I mean, it's just a downer. It's just a downer. What at this rally was significant except for the fact that he was going back to the place where he was shot, and there's this big sort of cult of personality now around him and what a hero he is for going back. And like I said, it was a good decision to go back. It worked. But where are the viral moments of what was actually said? You have Elon Musk here, right? The Ubermensch of the First Amendment. Where are the viral moments of what's actually said? Instead, he goes viral for a different reason, which Russell has here to break down some of the significant imagery of this event.
All right. So there have been a few iconic images in the course of our noble history as a nation that you can't look at without feeling the era that they were taken in. I don't know where you have the slides.
Oh, it's right here.
So you can't see this without thinking about the post-war world and everything that goes with it. Another iconic photo, Ali's knockout of Sonny Liston on countless dorm room walls to this day, with Ali representing so many of the conflicts of the 60s and its contradictions and its hopes and dreams. I think we got a picture out of last night that will be considered equally emblematic of the age that we live in. Yes.
Yep.
I think this captures the moment that we are in better than any image I've ever seen. Two billionaires, one of them levitating in excitement for the idea of his fellow billionaire ruling over the poor slobs in the stands who have been deluded into a kind of Randian economics that tells them that these two being on top and unfettered is the best thing for the country and the best thing for them. It's the best thing for them. They're showing their manhood, their patriotism by putting these two up on a palanquin and carrying it around in an open field in Butler, Pennsylvania, being slavish devotees of billionaires makes you a man. Makes you a man. That's, I just marinated in these people for a few days out in DC. And yeah, man, it's it is a kind of nationalism. And if you caught Russell Brand and Jordan Two Faces act, that Christian nationalism is taking on a very bizarre and uniquely American form with these people. It's this weird amalgam of a kind of bizarre online Christian nationalism with this eat raw meat and work out and pray to Jesus and Elon is God and buy a cyber truck and Trump's fighting the deep state. It's just this whole confluence of forces. You know what it is? It's making Mussolini's version of fascism look smart.
Right.
It's a particularly American variety of old fascism. It's our take on it. And yeah, it's I feel bad for these people in this crowd who actually believe that this is the answer. But there is such a great human impulse, as you've probably discovered from some of the feedback on some of your takes. People need to believe in something.
Right.
They need to believe in something. And certainly I don't blame people for not believing in the deep state avatar that is Kamala Harris or serial liar Tim Walz. But this is not the answer, folks. This is not the answer. What the Teamsters just did, that's the beginning of an answer. It's hard, and it's going to require personal responsibility and thought, not just relinquishing your thought to a bunch of influencers. Listen, this is what you got to understand. I always say, I'm Charlie Bucket. I got inside the chocolate factory. I'm one of you. I got on the inside. I can tell you, when you go to a Rescue the Republic, what are these people that you admire? Some people admire. Talking about building their brands, man. That's all you are to them. They don't give a fuck about you. They are all trying to figure out how to make more money and get more visibility.
Exactly.
That's all that's going on there. They don't give a shit. I'm telling you, I'm there. I see what goes on. I hear what people, I'm backstage, man. I'm right there. These people don't care about you. They care about them and building a business on your back.
Right. Russell Brand wants to introduce his audience to Jordan Peterson, so Jordan Peterson gets to introduce his audience to Russell Brand.
It's all networking and making money off you, man. That's
all it is. 100%, and I agree with that 100%, and I think you're 100% right. This photo does encapsulate perfectly the ethos of our time, not just this election, but our time. And understand, this pathology is just as present on the other side, on the Democratic side. We did a segment earlier in this show, the libs losing their mind over this 26-year-old pop star not endorsing who they want. It's the same thing, just this fealty to people who exist on a different strata of society than you and are not invested in you whatsoever. And that is just what's so frustrating. And that's why I project what comes off as black-pilled sentiment as often as I do around this election, because that's the reality as it pertains to this election. We should support these union strikes. We should be in solidarity with each other to help each other, empower each other, and build better lives for each other. But this is pathetic. It's pathetic. It's pathetic on the Democrat side. It's pathetic here. What the hell are you doing? You jumping up and down for Elon Musk? Yep. For Elon Musk? Like Tim Pool shows up in his Cybertruck. It's feudalism. That's what it is. Yep. This is feudalism. That is their idea. That is their big plan in a nutshell.
Techno-feudalism.
Absolutely. And I understand totally the impulse to want to go out and vote for Donald Trump, given a lot of what's been happening in our space over the past few days. People being censored on behalf of a global order that is truly evil, truly pushing evil ends. Donald Trump, the man, if he had his druthers, would probably do away with that. I personally think he's too weak to put up a real effort there. But you could say at least there's a chance with Donald Trump, and in the privacy of a voting booth, if he's your lesser evil option, I think that makes sense. If that's where you want to go, that's your choice. I think you could make a case for that. But there's a difference between saying, okay, I can make a case for Donald Trump as a lesser evil in the privacy of a voting booth. There's a difference between that and pissing in my face and telling me it's raining.
Yes.
It's not raining. This is a stream of piss straight to the face. And what we can't do as commentators is tell you differently because
and as a man with 3 boys, he knows a thing or two about a stream of piss to the face.
To the face, exactly. And so as commentators with an audience and a platform whose words reach people, I can't tell you any different. I can't tell you any different. And it is just truly, it is pathetic. I mean, it is a sad thing. It is a pitiful thing to see a country that was born of a certain frontier spirit just devolve into 2 cults of personality where the bases are more concerned about currying favor with people who would not piss in their face if they were on fire. And that, like I said, that exists on both sides. That obsession with celebrity, that cult of personality exists on both sides. And there are just no solutions to be found in a voting booth this year. That's what I really think. I mean, why are there no memorable lines from this rally? Why didn't anything anyone said go viral? Nothing. Just the giant. It is just hero worship. Now, you want to say, well, the guy was shot, give him a break. Okay, fine. But what? Nothing? We don't get anything of substance to take away from this except Elon Musk go up there and make these very superficial statements about free speech when he just suppressed his own. He just caved on free speech. Rumble doesn't cave on free speech. He did. He did because Brazil was going to cut off his Starlink contracts.
Cut off the Starlink contracts.
And so he caved to them. You know, he still has a lot of people arbitrarily banned on his platform. It's just a nightmare. It really is.
Look, on both sides, top to bottom, all across this whole spectrum, these are all influencers. Elon, Trump, they're at the top of the pyramid of influencers living off your money, living off your attention, living off your clicks, living off the fame that you give them. And the 2 different sides, they pitch to a different kind of person. You know, the people who are attracted to the Democrats, they're a certain type of neurotic. They're a certain type of modern neurotic, safetyist neurotics who really want to be told what to do in that way. And then on the other side, it's appealing a lot to men with, I think, a justified anxiety about a loss of masculinity and purpose. That's why so much of this, build up your body and take these supplements, and that's why so much of that gains traction in that space. But I'll tell you, man, if there's a common thing among all these people, whether it's Trump, whether it's Elon, whether it's lesser lights who hope to aspire to something like their level, it's that they'll never tell their audience anything that's going to cost them a nickel. That's it. All of these people, if there's one common denominator, it's that they will never tell you the truth. They will tell you whatever shit they think is going to further their own power. That's their yardstick. I've said this before. I used to drive a horse and carriage. And, when you're doing that for hours every night, you think a lot about the nature of that relationship. And something I thought about a lot that I still do. A lot of the world is people trying to make you a horse pulling their wagon, whatever it is, their political project, their business, whatever it is, man. The world's full of people who want to harness you up and use your time, your energy, your life force, your youth, especially when you're young. You get a lot of people who try to take advantage of your naivety and get you to work on their shit. Never be that horse, man. Never be that horse. Always ask yourself, am I the horse right now? And if the answer is yes, get out of that situation. These people all want to harness you up and use your limited time on this earth to further their own ends.
Yeah, well, that goes for a lot of people, including the bosses of a lot of these people who are in this crowd. And on the problem of stolen masculinity, because that is a huge part of this grift, right? Is that there's a war on men, and so you have to take this testosterone supplement, and you have to work out this, eat your red meat and whatever. Which once again, that is politics as lifestyle brand, just as libs sort of co-opt a lot of the LGBTQ stuff to as a substitute for political involvement. Same thing here. Politics through self-improvement. What they don't tell you is that working class men are getting sicker and dying younger, not because the Ghostbusters remake was an all-female cast. No, that's not why they're getting sicker and dying younger. I'm sorry. If you listen to Jordan Peterson, he would have you think that. The reason they're getting sicker and dying younger is because they're poorer, because their bosses are paying them less money, and their bodies can't work, those extra hours for those extra years. They break down, they get sick, and they die younger. And does Elon Musk consider that a big problem? No, he does not. Does Donald Trump think of that as a big problem? No, he does not. Do they ever talk about that? Do they ever talk about the fact that working class men are dying younger because their bodies are breaking down because they're forced to work with their hands longer hours for lower wages, and their health simply cannot keep up with that? No, they won't tell you that. They'll tell you it's because the culture has turned against them. And there is some truth to the fact that the culture has turned against them, but that's not why working class men are in the position they're in. They're in the position they're in because they're being exploited by capital. And good luck hearing anything of that sort on this stage.
Well, in a lot of these jobs, they're exposed to a lot of toxic shit, man. My best friend, he passed away from cancer. And I think a lot of that, because it's very common where I come from, and I've had an interesting experience because I grew up with people who do those kinds of jobs, but then I went to college. And if you look at the death rate of people I went to college with and people I grew up with, it's no comparison. A lot of people I grew up with are dead already. Right. People I went to college with, they're alive.
Right.
They're alive. They're not working with sheetrock dust all the time. They're not working with these paints, with these oils, with these chemicals. And also, a lot of times, working class people, out of frustration, they cultivate unhealthy habits. They'll drink too much. They're still smoking much more than the rest of the population.
Yep.
Sadness of that life will drive you to drink. It'll literally drive you to drink.
And to smoke. When I worked at the UPS warehouse, we were sometimes working 7-8 hour shifts because I worked a seasonal job during the holidays, during the COVID Christmas when demand was through the roof. You work 7-8 hours, they give you one break for 10 minutes. That's it. 1 10-minute break.
Right.
For an 8-hour shift of hard manual labor in the freezing cold in the middle of the night. You know what people did on those 10-minute breaks? Most people at that warehouse smoked. They're busting their ass, lugging shit. You think you'd want to breathe some fresh air during the 10-minute break that you have to rest your body? Nope. Right to the cigarette.
No,
right?
It's because your brain thinks that it's getting some kind of gratification.
Right. Yep. So anyway, I think that puts a button on that segment. That went a little deeper than we should have, but hey, it was better than the baseball talk. That was originally going to be my bit.
Yeah. Well, now that we finished, because I didn't want to ruin the clip. Okay, so I got so thrown by using the wrong name. So the reason I was talking about Second Thought before is because I saw that guy do something, I thought of you immediately. Because that guy is totally obviously, let's burn down the whole political system.
Right.
And he says, I want the American project to end. Very much like you. But then, you know what he said? It's this simple. He said, I don't mean America. I like it here. I like the people here. I mean the American project. So, and you've said that. You just have to make it clear, like, that you have a great love for the American people, or people might take it wrong.
All right. Noted. Maybe that guy's a fan of the show. Maybe that guy watched. Maybe he got it from me. Yeah. That's possible too. All right, Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks for the $4.99. Nothing to say, but good day. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Appreciate that. Ian Puttick says, love the New York accent, gonna get whacked. Hey, Ian was at an event with Aaron Mate today in London, and he said he met a bunch of dissidents in the audience. He says our name was mentioned in the crowd. So thank you, Ian, for alerting us to that.
Very cool.
And hopefully the Gray Zone has video of that event, because I would love to watch that event. Russ, let's get out that cowbell and the sound drop for Landrew for $100.
Oh, snap.
Thank you, Landrew. Appreciate
I
that
haven't
very
had this
much.
in a while.
No. My brother heard from friends and clients in North Carolina. No one is helping them but private citizens. I sent him some cash and he filled his truck and trailer and off to dig people out. We should be ashamed of the genocide Joe and Harris, Governor Senator Lindsey Graham think about Israel. Yeah, just horrible. Our next few segments are about North Carolina.
Landrew is dead.
And the hurricane. Thank you, Landrew, and best wishes to the family, obviously. Hearts in the chat for Landrew, please. Okay, and thank you always for that generous donation. MCFC, thanks to the $9.99, says, what's with Musk dressing like a poor man's Matt Taibbi? Yeah, no, he dresses in the Occupy Mars t-shirt and all that shit. Yeah, absolutely. Brendan McNamara says, not going to lie, Elon trying to sound folksy comes off like a Chinese guy singing honky tonk. The fact that the Dems are tied or worse with this is telling. Yes, 100%. Well,
it's funny. I don't know if it was the public speaking. That's the only time I've heard a South African accent come out.
Oh, yeah.
And he was
maybe.
saying fight.
You
heard that accent.
Eric Torres, thanks for the $2, says, I red-pilled my shop steward and boss. Thank you, Eric Torres. Appreciate that. Awesome. Good to hear. Nice work. Okay, folks, we are going to take a game break here and we'll try to move a little coffee, obviously. We're going to sell some 1775 coffee. Free speech, not the ad read yet, but we've said for many, many years now the importance of building free speech infrastructure, and that's part of what this is about here, folks. So, do you enjoy the free speech that Rumble is protecting and fighting for? Our show on Rumble is only possible thanks to our viewers supporting Rumble's platform by purchasing Rumble's products. So most of you drink coffee every day. I know Russ and I do. That's why you got to try Rumble's 1775 coffee. It's the same price as the coffee you buy now, but it's way better because it's free from chemicals and rich in flavor. And this is because their beans are sourced from high-altitude farms in Bolivia, hand-picked, roasted weekly at their facility in Miami, and delivered fresh to your doorstep. And as believers in freedom, buying from Rumble helps fight back against censorious corporations like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. So join the coffee revolution and brew rebellion with Rumble's 1775 coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com, use code STUDIO, and get a free month supply of their cognitive boosting supplement, Limitless, when you buy 2 bags of coffee. So that's a crazy deal. The supplement's actually worth more than the 2 bags of coffee. So go to 1775coffee.com to try their amazing coffee. Comes in 16-ounce bags, so you get more bang for your buck than you do at the supermarket, where they're 10 to 12-ounce bags. 1775coffee.com, coupon code STUDIO. And people are learning very, very quickly the importance of supporting these free speech platforms, which we'll have more to say about. We'll have more to say about on the Rumble side, because we do have a Q&A after the show tonight, folks. Don't forget, patron Q&A after the show. Go to dudissidents.com/Rumble. That takes you to our active stream, but that's in a little while. We got plenty of show left. Shout out to Jake in the booth. Jake is in the booth fielding Rumble rants tonight. Round of applause for Jake in the chat, doing a great job as always. Nancy JB 114 says, may we all get through this crazy life. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Amen.
Blank State says, More Perfect Union is basically a Democratic Party PAC and media organization found by Bernard Sanders' shady 2020 campaign manager, Faz Shakir. Yes, 2020 Project 2025 fearmongers. Well, that's not who he was talking about. He had mistook it. It was Second Thought as the name of the channel. Although More Perfect Union, to their credit, and I understand, I know who they are and what those criticisms are. I think those are totally valid. But they have put out a lot of good work from time to time. That Uber driver story, which they pretty much broke, was the most recent example of something of theirs that we use. And, after the election, this is the big 1 month blitz where obviously we're going to be covering the election a lot. But as we think long term about what we want to build as a project, I do want to have the rideshare guy on, who I had known about prior to that segment, but we were put in contact with him after that segment. So yeah, we want to do a lot more labor-oriented stuff because that's going to be where it's at very, very shortly. It's where it's at now, but it'll come clearer into focus very shortly.
Yeah, our plans for after the most black-pilled election in American history is over is to become a more activist channel, to do more real activism, and to use our background in theater, which dovetails very well with event planning, to plan events. We're talking about that arts festival in the spring. We're also talking about something like the douchebag dialogues, but without douchebags.
Right.
Why
Yeah,
can't,
exactly.
why can't the left do that? We can do that.
Exactly. Yes, we can. All right, let's go to some more Rumble Rants. My real name. This young woman is learning that having a nuanced opinion is not acceptable in today's America. Shit lib or Trump tard, giant douche or turd sandwich. That's right.
No.
The judge says, quit shitting on the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr. would whip your ass. Yeah. He knows where to find me. That guy. He didn't have it. Did he have a good game yesterday? I think they shut him down pretty good yesterday. This is the Due Dissidents versus the Vanguard division series. New York versus Kansas City. Miserable Lib, Texas, thanks for the $2. The greatest trick of the plutocrats was not just to get us to accept the plutocracy, but to celebrate it. Absolutely. 100%. You got these people out there in Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania, for Elon Musk. I mean, oh my God, unbelievable. Furrow Squeak, don't change.
That is the peasant mind right there, man.
Yep. Don't change, Keaton. We need the fuck America scumbag douchebag attitude from you and the wise sage of Russell. Go Blue Jays sent you a meme of Russell via email actually today. Oh, you did? We didn't see that. All right, we'll look into that. Yeah. Thank you for that, Furrow Squeak. Appreciate that. I could still see Netanyahu's dried splooge on Musk's grill. Thank you. Very vivid imagery there. Everyone stand up, be American. Stand up, be American. Thank you. Dubs B10. Happy Sunday. You too, Dubs. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sounds like someone needs tuned up. Thank you, Contract Rook. Appreciate that very much. All right. Jake, can you make a new Rumble Rants banner? I deleted it. Sorry about that. My fault. Okay, here we go. All right, folks. We're going to talk about Hurricane Helene now. Tulsi Gabbard put out this tweet. And I know it sucks to feature Tulsi Gabbard. We're all very angry. She is on our beep list, I'll say, since this is the first 15 seconds of the clip. But she did get some impressive footage, and to her credit, she's on the ground there, which is more than we could say for certain government leaders at the moment. So we're going to play this video here.
We were able to get on a helicopter so we could get a bird's eye view of the touchdown. We were able to get on a helicopter so we could get a bird's eye view of the Lake Lure and Chimney Rock area.
This is the whole team right here for the town.
Sorry for everything that's happened. And it's hard to put into words what that devastation is and what it's going to take for them to even begin to start thinking about rebuilding. It's going to be a long road ahead.
So this is the operation. We're so fortunate to be so loved by everybody. We haven't had a natural disaster like this in Western North Carolina in a very long time. So the outpouring is amazing, and as you can see, volunteers galore, and it's just, so heartfelt.
It is incredible how far people are traveling to come here, both to help but also to get the supplies they need.
To help from all over, Florida, Michigan, the Northeast. They're driving an exorbitant amount of distance to come here. As far as a volunteer, all over South Carolina and Eastern North Carolina, Georgia.
The rebuilding here is just going to be so expensive.
Yeah.
I own the Chimney Rock Inn.
Okay.
A third of the back is missing, completely wiped out.
See where the blue styrofoam is at?
Yep.
Our apartment was right under that. Everything
Wow.
is completely.
You got the mountains around, everything gets funneled in there. And so you get this raging torrent, wall of water, 20, 40 feet deep. It comes down the river, rock, mud, trees, houses, buildings, and it's just like a giant bulldozer slamming everything. It just kind of clears it all out.
But anything you can do to keep us alive. I don't know what kind of water. We got water in MREs. We got some of that stuff. We're ready for the apocalypse. We need help building this road back. We need a big retaining wall. We need the park reopened. We need this road all the way up. That's the kind of help we need. We got chainsaws. We got water. We need structure. Appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate you being here, though.
Well, that's, the smallest thing we can do is just to try to lift up your voices and your stories and what the needs really are here. Glenn, nice to meet you. Tulsi, thanks for what you guys are doing. Nice to meet you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
We should be clear all the way down.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good to
guys.
see you.
We're strong. We just need help.
Yeah.
So, what that woman says there says a lot. She says, look, we have lumber, we have water, we have goods, we need structures, meaning you need a government response. Like, there are certain responses that only the government is capable of performing because they're too big and too vital and too expensive to be done by sort of individual people or even individual groups without that kind of spending power. And where is the government? We're going to talk about FEMA in the next segment. But, when Katrina hit, George W. Bush was a lame duck. It was in 2005. He didn't have to face the people for a vote ever again. When Sandy hit in 2012, notice Obama made a point to be very hands-on to the point where Chris Christie got in trouble because Chris Christie was hugging him and praising him the week before the election, even though Chris Christie was Mitt Romney's basically his top surrogate until that moment. Where is the government now? I mean, this is a desperate situation affecting such huge swaths of the country, including, as we'll do a couple segments from now, some very critical swing states that could very, very easily decide who wins and who loses. And so, there are moments like this where you just look at, again, so folks, I'm sorry, but this is just another symptom of the collapse of the country. It just is. I mean, since when does a government act this casually? The month before Election Day. It's October. You have this huge band of the country in ruins. You have people digging corpses up. You have people missing. You have entire towns that have been wiped out, towns that are inaccessible to civilians because the roads are flooded out and eaten out by mudslides. How can you be this absent? How? Like, this in the face of what is supposedly the existential threat of Donald Trump winning? The incumbent party, the incumbent vice president, goes on camera and says, you can apply for your $750 of immediate relief if you can access a computer somewhere. And a lot of people are being rejected for that if they have homeowners insurance. I mean, it's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. You talk about a psyop? Everyday life has become a psyop. This is a trivial comparison. I tried to get a basic TV package hooked up because I don't have TV, but I want to watch the baseball playoffs. I was on the phone for 3 hours trying to get it hooked up. Again, very trivial concern compared to this. But nothing works anymore. Nothing is right in the country anymore. To the point where a month before Election Day, the president and the vice president can't get into these areas. Tulsi Gabbard goes there with a camera. I mean, it is a sad state of affairs. It really is. Like I said, I'm really trying, folks, not to go to that place tonight. I'm really making an effort. I hope you appreciate it. I hope it's not in vain. I hope it's being recognized.
Eaton has stared too long into the void.
Yeah.
And it stares back into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's the element that Marx described of late stage capitalism being defined by capital eating the state. I think we're well into that process where capital has devoured a lot of public services and the money needed to finance public services. I think it's also, honestly, we don't have a president right now. And there are certain executive functions that a president executes. With foreign policy, I think they have long done foreign policy without the president, as Trump discovered. when he tried to have his own foreign policy. And they literally did things against his wishes. And he's not the first president to have that experience. This has happened to other presidents. They just haven't been as publicly complaining about what they're doing. I think they are not as well prepared to run domestic policy without a president. I honestly think that's part of what's going on here. I think there's no one steering the ship, and the institutions of state are kind of hollowed out.
Right.
And you don't have anybody to say, go to the election. Right. You know, I don't even think he's capable of that at this point. I think that's part of why this is going down like that. Of course, it's October. If you had any kind of like a president,
it's October.
They'd be releasing billions of dollars from different sources, whatever they had to do, call in the National Guard, whatever they had to do. I don't think there's anyone to do that. And unlike with foreign policy, they just don't have worked out how to function without a president. Because I think they've been running foreign policy like that since Kennedy. They have that worked out.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like foreign policy is sort of on autopilot. Right. It just kind of runs itself at this time. But now when you have a situation where you actually need like a human executive to make very quick, real time decisions, there's nobody home. There's nobody home. And look, Hitler's about to win. Trump's about to, I mean, Trump could win. I mean, it's a 50-50. Trump's going to win.
And Kamala,
it's October.
Kamala is a media creation and barely that.
Right. Right. And what you're seeing, a backfiring, you know, the strategy that the Democrats employed, not unwisely, was to make Kamala as generic as possible, make her as nondescript as possible. Polling showed a generic Democrat beat Trump, so make her as generic as possible. That only works under certain circumstances. Generic in a crisis doesn't cut it because this actually requires decision making. It requires quick and precise and specific decision making, and it's just not there. It's just not there. And
imagine privately how terrified they are of Kamala speaking off the cuff in public that they haven't sent her there. That they have decided it's less damaging to not have her do what Tulsi did than to risk what she might say to these people off script.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was that brief piece of sound where she talked about you can get your $750 for immediate relief. And no, that's not all the relief people are getting, but that's for like immediate goods, right? If you don't have access to the bank account or whatever. But again, you have to apply, you have to get approved. How do you apply? If you got homeowners, it's hell. It's hell. It is a matrix of bureaucracy that just moves at a snail's pace, if it moves at all. And the fact that it's so complicated serves as a deterrent from people trying to get it. Oh, I'll never get that $750. Why even try? Right? Yeah, it's just, it is unbelievable. But I think you're right. I think that explains it. I think there are certain things that are big enough to the point where, all right, we got Anthony Blinken, we got Jake Sullivan. They're sort of keeping the big global project, you know, more or less on track. When it comes to this, no, that this requires a certain level of hands-onness, if you will. Right. That's just not there. They're not capable of doing it.
Well, because the concerns of the deep state are not domestic except in destroying and suppressing any kind of dissent.
Right.
In terms of dealing with hurricanes, let the executive deal with that. You don't have an executive, there's nobody in place to do it.
Right. Yep. Indeed, I agree. All right. We got a couple more hurricane segments that we want to do, obviously, but we do want to take a quick game break here to shout out our patrons. So, Jake, you can hit the scroll if you are able to do that now. If you want to help support this channel,
let's plug my tour after.
Sure. Indeed. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at patreon.com/DoDissidence, or you can go to our Substack, which is DoDissidence.substack.com, or join our locals. We're really pushing the Substack and the locals. The cool thing about locals is we stream to locals now, which will have its own private members-only chat. But, folks, you know what's going on here in East Berlin these past few days. This is why we need members to support the show. You guys are what censor-proof the operation. It is getting pretty scary out there now. And so your support is what keeps us going. It is what guarantees that in a worst case scenario, we can keep the show on its feet. And platforms like Locals do not censor us. They are connected to Rumble, so that is a free speech supporter-based platform. And so if you're on Rumble right now, you can hit that join button underneath the video player. That takes you to our Locals. Everybody else can go to dudissidents.locals.com. It helps tremendously. If you sign up, perks are you get your name up in lights here on the supporter scroll. You get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday night, which, hey, it's Sunday tonight. We are going to be doing a Q&A after this program. You also get 2 exclusive supporter streams per month. That's right. We do 2 full-length live streams, which are interactive live streams for our supporters every month. Those are, like I said, call-in interactive streams. So we do about an hour of content and then take about an hour of calls. That happens twice a month. And in addition to that, you get access to really fun things like live streamed special events. The next one of those is going to be Russell Dobular's Weird New York Walking Tour, which is taking place in the run-up to Halloween, the 25th and the 26th. You can get tickets to that at dudissidents.com/tour. Russell, you want to fill people in on the details?
All right. So this is a tour that I created because I hated doing ghost tours, but I liked the underlying stories of the macabre. So I said, I'm just going to create my own ideal tour of the weird and the bizarre in Greenwich Village. So my idea of that is to take you to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire location. I take you to a spot where Gigi Allen performed. That's a pretty colorful scatological story I will tell there.
Excuse me.
The site of a very famous Weather Underground bombing in the village. You can still see the effects that had on the townhouse that stands there today. And the location of an MK Ultra safe house, among many, many other things. So this was my favorite tour to give. Coming out of retirement for 2 nights only. 2 tickets left for Saturday, 13 left for Friday. So they are almost gone. If you want to go, get your tickets now, folks.
There you go. That's dudissidents.com/tour for tickets. All righty, folks. We are going to move right along here. Mac Truck says, Elon Musk, raise your hands if you're sure. Wussy Sure deodorant, 1984. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mac Truck, agree. Working class men and women are dying younger or in worse health due to the social determinants of health. Social workers know what this means. This documented in medicine and healthcare. Well, yeah, man. When I was driving Uber 12 hours a day, that's when my health went to shit. I never had any sort of like blood pressure problem until then. But, you're out there hustling and, you just kind of stop and shove whatever snacks down your throat you can because you don't have time to take a lunch break. I mean, not really. The thing about driving Uber is, you don't get paid time. So, like, if you work an 8.5-hour shift at a Walmart, you get a half-hour lunch where you just go and you take your break. Uber, you never know, man. I take a half-hour break. I turn the app off for a half an hour. I could miss a day-breaking ride. What if an $80 ride comes in, during that time? I can't afford to miss that. So yeah, no, it's brutal. It's brutal, and it does take a toll on the body, for sure. And then obviously the real bad. I mean, like the UPS stuff. I mean, that's a whole nother realm of that. But they're union at least. The Judge 51, it's bad enough my tax dollars support genocide. Does it have to support Gilgamesh's shit takes two? What you got against Gilgamesh? Why do your tax dollars support Gilgamesh? Who's Gilgamesh? Are you talking about our Gilgamesh? Your tax dollars don't support our Gilgamesh. Or are you talking about another Gilgamesh?
Do you mean the Gilgamesh exhibit at the Smithsonian?
Yeah.
The Natural History Museum there?
Is Gilgamesh CIA? Is he a Fed?
Is that a code name?
Yeah, is that a code? Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. All right, Amadeus, thanks for the $5. Neither techno-feudalism nor neoliberalism will survive the dollar drop. The billionaires are in big trouble. Thank you, Amadeus. Eric Torres. Where's Eric Torres? What the hell happened? Prima nocta for your PTO. Thank you, Eric Torres. Amadeus, thanks for the $10. Changing your time to air got rid of my earlier comment. But I said, Keaton, I wish no violence on anyone. Also, Keaton, I took the black pill because there wasn't a darker one. Thank you. Yeah, we changed our time. Well, originally, when I scheduled this stream, it was for 2 o'clock. I just had a brain fart this morning, so I had to delete that and then reschedule it. So maybe that's what you meant. MCFC, thanks for the $4.99. Neither Trump nor Musk grew up with callous hands. That is true.
Yep.
DC, thanks for the $5. Don't be a horse, yes, ye be led astray. Just say nay. Ah, that's a nice dad joke. I like that one, DC. Just say nay. Stephen Shepard, but may I please have more government, Tiny Tim? Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, Skyman, thanks for the $20. Keaton, I wrote a script to a comic book I'm currently funding to have the first issue illustrated. It's called Shark with a Shotgun and deals with a bit of techno-feudal themes. It might be right up your alley. Yeah, send us an email for sure. Amadeus, thanks for the $5. Says Tulsi knew that Biden would be this when she endorsed him, and she knows Trump will be too. You might be right about that, my friend. Q Star Sonic, thanks for the $19.99. Appreciate that very much. Okay. All right. We're going to move right along here. So we just did a segment broadly about the damage from the hurricane. But here is Mayorkas here. 3 months ago, FEMA is tremendously prepared for hurricane season. And Mayorkas today, FEMA is out of money and can't make it through hurricane season. We do not have the funds. So these are two videos 3 months apart picked for this tweet here. Sorry, where the hell is it? There it is.
Tremendously prepared. FEMA is tremendously prepared. This is what we do. This is what they do. And the key here, Rebecca, is also to make sure that the communities who are potentially impacted are prepared as well. And it's not just hurricanes and wildfires, also extreme heat, which certainly some parts of the United States are already experiencing.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas sounding the alarm on FEMA funding right after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
All right. So there you go. That's right, folks. America, Alejandro Mayorkas, this is the Secretary of Homeland Security, warns FEMA doesn't have enough funding to last through hurricane season. The Federal Emergency Management Agency can meet immediate needs if you fill out the right forms and you get them in and you don't have, the adequate homeowners insurance. They can meet your immediate needs, asterisk, in the upper corner. They should be required to put the asterisk up there whenever they say we'll meet your immediate needs. Through the hurricane season, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told reporters Wednesday, the agency is being stretched as it works with states to assess damage from Hurricane Helene and delivers meals, water, generators, and other critical supplies. The storm struck Florida last week, then plowed through several states in the southeast, flooding towns and killing more than 160 people. Mayorkas was not specific about how much additional money the agency may need, but his remarks on Air Force One underscored concerns voiced by President Joe Biden and some lawmakers earlier this week that Congress may need to pass a supplemental spending bill this fall to help states with recovery efforts. Quote, we're meeting immediate needs with the money that we have. We're expecting another hurricane hitting, Mayorkas said. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season. Hurricane season runs June 1st to November 30th, but most hurricanes typically occur in September and October. So we're basically halfway through prime hurricane season, and looks like no more money left for disaster relief. Congress recently replenished a key source of FEMA's response efforts, providing $20 billion for the agency's disaster relief fund as part of a short-term government spending bill to fund the government through December 20th. The bill also gave FEMA flexibility to draw on the money more quickly as needed. Both chambers of Congress are scheduled, however, to be in their home states and districts until after the election as lawmakers focus on campaigning. House Speaker Mike Johnson from Louisiana gave no hint he was considering changing that schedule during a speech on Tuesday. He said that Congress just provided FEMA with the funds it needs to respond and that lawmakers would make sure those resources are appropriately allocated. A bipartisan group of senators from affected states wrote their leadership this week, saying it's clear Congress must act to meet constituents' needs. They said that may even require Congress to come back in October ahead of the election. Mayorkas made his comments as Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris fanned out across the Southeast to witness the damage from the hurricane and seek to demonstrate commitment and competence in helping devastated communities. Biden is heading to North and South Carolina, while Harris is going to Georgia. More than 150,000 households have registered for assistance with FEMA, and that number is expected to rise rapidly in the coming days, said Frank Matranga, an agency representative. The devastation was especially severe in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where at least 57 people died in and around Asheville, North Carolina, a tourism haven known for its art galleries, breweries, and outdoor activities. Communities were wiped off the map, North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper said at a news conference Tuesday. So I'll get into that migrant bit later. But surveying the damage, right, paying a visit is not a response. You need a response. You need an infrastructure mobilization here. Notice, folks, when they wanted us to all get the shot here in the arm, overnight, they sprung up. You had basically makeshift medical centers.
Yep,
just
everywhere.
They
everywhere.
When I got my jab, I got it in a big tented facility where they had people come and staff it, and you had all kinds of little cubicles and booths set up and nurses and personnel everywhere you looked. That's what the government can do when they want to do something, right?
Yeah.
That's what they could do when they want to do something. All of a sudden, you had little makeshift medical centers just prop up in parking lots all across America, all at once, very, very quickly. When I went and I got the jab, it was like, wow, this is what universal healthcare is, right? This is what universal healthcare is. When they want to provide you something, they can provide it to you. They can get it done. That's what you need here. You need infrastructure. That's what the guy said in the video. We need structures. You're talking about a military. Look at what the United States military can do overnight when they want to. Look at the funding that goes out the door to build military bases all around the world. Look at what they can do very quickly and very powerfully when they want to. And look at the line of bullshit they give you when their own people are drowning in towns that have been destroyed, buried under rubble. Well, we don't have the resources to make it through the season. That is a telltale symptom of a dying empire, right? When your country has outstretched hands all over the world to do all kinds of horrors all over the world, a seemingly infinite money supply for that. But when a disaster strikes, the federal emergency management, they can't get it together to do what needs to be done, to at least get people out, to get people found. They can't mobilize on that level here. I mean, that is a dying empire. That is Exhibit A.
Well, that's what they mean when they say the system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as it was designed to function. Right. At this point, what Eisenhower warned us of, that there was a military-industrial complex that was a great danger to the nation. We are living in that reality. We can see it very clearly at moments like this, that at this point, the government is run on behalf of the military-industrial complex, and financiers, shareholders, corporate entities that rely on America's ability to force other countries to do our bidding in regards to resources, in regards to favorable trade policies, so that they can have their run of the planet. That is what this all goes back to. This is why they never want to shut down bases. This is why they never want to bring troops back. They are there to force other countries to execute our will for the profits of our investor class and our wealthy class. That's what this is all about. The American people, they're incidental. The only thing they want from the American people is because the country was nominally founded on the premise that people get to vote. They need them to vote so that their wing of the investor class will be in charge. So again, that was something we talked to Caleb Maupin about, Yankees versus Cowboys. You have the more Rockefeller Republican wing represented by people like Nancy Pelosi, who tend to be more the Davos social liberals, climate change people. And then you got what Trump represents, the more mining, oil, kind of more analog, old school, rip shit out of the earth and build things kind of people. And they're just, they just fight every 4 years over who's going to have access to the most graft money.
Right. Exactly. So some Republicans pounced on this, the FEMA cash shortage. So Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, says this is easy. Mayorkas and FEMA immediately stop spending money on illegal immigration resettlement and redirect those funds to areas hit by the hurricane. Put Americans first. The Trump war room. FEMA has spent north of $1 billion resettling illegal aliens into America over the last 2 years. Meanwhile, the agency is out of money to respond to Hurricane Helene, which has left entire communities destroyed. This is a scandal that should end Kamala Harris's political career. Dan Crenshaw, unbelievable. Maybe, just maybe, the Biden-Harris administration should stop diverting FEMA funds meant to help Americans during disaster recovery to facilitate mass paroling illegal migrants into the country. Now, it's interesting. FEMA actually has, as part of its website, is a real thing, a rumor response. Again, this is how you know that we are in a decaying country. This is how you know that institutional collapse in trust of institutions is real. They actually have a devoted page on their website basically fact-checking the rumors that are out there. So that is the Hurricane Helene rumor response page on FEMA. FEMA says, rumor funding for FEMA disaster response was diverted to support international efforts or border-related issues, which is the accusation that those Republican accounts levied. They say this is false. No money is being diverted from disaster response needs. FEMA's disaster response efforts and individual assistance is funded through the Disaster Relief Fund, which is a dedicated fund for disaster efforts. Disaster Relief Fund money has not been diverted to other non-disaster related efforts. So Newsweek does a write-up, a more thorough write-up about this. FEMA tapped out for hurricane recovery as GOP points to $1 billion spent on migrants. So they ask, what is FEMA spending on migrants? The Shelter and Services Program provides funding to non-federal agencies to spend on humanitarian services for non-U.S. citizens. For the 2024 fiscal year, which ended on Monday, $640 million was made available. The FEMA website says this funding is intended to support U.S. Customs and Border Protection in the safe, orderly, and humane release of non-citizen migrants from short-term holding facilities. The money can be spent on a range of services, including food, shelter, transportation, acute medical care, clothing, and translation services. The budget for the past year was a significant increase from the 2023 fiscal year, when $363 million was allocated. Together, more than $1 billion has been spent on non-citizen services over the past 2 years. However, SSP, which what does that stand for again? Shelter and Services Program, is a small share of FEMA's overall yearly budget. For the new financial year, which began October 1st, the agency laid out a need for $33.1 billion. These claims are completely false, a DHS spokesperson told Newsweek on Thursday, addressing the accusations by Abbott and others. As Secretary Mayorkas said, FEMA has the necessary resources to meet the immediate needs associated with Hurricane Helene and other disasters. The Shelter and Services Program is a completely separate appropriated grant program that was authorized and funded by Congress and is not associated in any way with FEMA's disaster-related authorities or funding streams. So, to render a judgment on that, what the conservatives are saying is not technically wrong. It sounds like if this was funded through sort of independent grants, there may not be a zero-sum quality where like money from the SSP is money that could not be spent on disaster relief. Then again, maybe it could have. I mean, you could always make that kind of argument, right? You could always make the argument that, well, in a government with finite resources, a dollar spent here is a dollar not spent over there. Their argument is always going to be, why spend a dime on any undocumented people? Now, so like once again, that strikes me as a political point. It's kind of par for the course that, especially in October, they would make those kinds of arguments. That doesn't really surprise me. I would say not necessarily false, perhaps slightly misleading and opportunistic, which again is par for the course. The bigger question, though, the more obvious question, though, is how do we as a society tolerate hundreds of billions of dollars going to fight foreign wars in Ukraine and Israel? And you have a hurricane like this, and FEMA says that their allowance for disaster relief is spent. Like, how do we tolerate that? How can a population be so dumbed down as to tolerate that?
Right.
The answer is evident in the Chappell Roan thing, where the libs lose their mind over a 26-year-old singer not bending to their will, and the Butler, Pennsylvania rally, where people are fawning at the feet of Elon Musk. That is how you get a population so dumbed down as to not revolt when a hurricane wipes out an entire band of the country and FEMA's out of money, but we're funding World War III on two fronts.
Well, and this is why in this particular section of the duopoly, they have to focus attention on the immigrant. It's an old tactic. It's an old tactic to distract from the ruling class, which has far more impact on the economic dislocation that a lot of these people are experiencing than the immigrants do. To blame some out group for this so that they don't come for the people on the hill, it's an old tried and true tactic that very often works. It's much easier to focus your ire on something tangible that you feel like you have a chance of fighting. To even contemplate taking on the real power, God, it's exhausting to even think about it. How would you do that? It's much easier to just go, God damn, they're taking our jobs. And listen, I have said throughout this crisis at the border, I do not believe for a second that they could not stop people coming over the border. We have the world's largest military. You could easily call that a national emergency and deploy the military to seal the border as a national security issue. Why, then, are they allowing that? I do agree that it is to destabilize labor. I believe it is to suppress wages. I thought it was very revealing when AOC in New York was saying, well, we have to get these people work permits. I do believe that's the end game. And they mask it in humanitarian intentions. You're talking about people who think nothing of funding a fucking genocide.
Exactly.
The idea that they want to allow migrants into the country as a humanitarian gesture is absurd on the face of it. There is no way that that is why they want migrants in this country. So do I think, through no fault of their own, if you were any kind of a man and your family was in desperate circumstances and you wanted to save them, you'd come here too, or woman, right? I mean, you'd bring your family. It's not their fault. But I mean, really, the left position on this, what I would consider the proper left position, stop destabilizing their countries and then they're not going to come here.
Of course.
Most people don't want to leave the place that they're from. I remember, man, when I was directing my first show, there was a janitor. I was directing at a community center. I was 16. And man, he was an old man working as a janitor. He was from the Philippines, and he was getting close to, he'd done his bit. He was saving that money so he could go home rich, and so he could send money back to relatives all those years. Every time I would see that guy, because he was coming to the end of it, he was going to go home. Couldn't wait. He would always, when he'd see me, I go, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. Mundell? I'll see you in the Philippines. I'll see you in the Philippines." He couldn't wait. That was all he would ever say to me.
Right.
Most people love where they're from. That's where all their connections are. They're not coming here because, for the Big Macs. That's not why they're coming here. So if you really want to do something about it, again, it goes back to the military-industrial complex. You need to shut down the wars that we wage either overtly or covertly in all of these countries. But are they bringing these people in? Look what just happened with the longshoremen. They would love to have hundreds of thousands of newly documented migrants to compete for those jobs, so that can't happen. I do believe that's why they're allowing this. That's a legitimate thing. But that is not why they don't have money for North Carolina.
Right.
That is not the reason.
$1 billion.
But they want to distract you
right.
from the people who are really bankrupting the lower orders of the country. They want to distract you from where the power really lies.
Right. I mean, even if it were true that the $1 billion that was spent on the SSP could have been, let's just say it could have been diverted into the disaster relief division of FEMA. Let's just say that were true. Maybe it is. I don't know that it's not. Doesn't sound like it is, because it sounds like they raised that money for that specific purpose, grant money. But let's just say it is. Let's just say they could have had that $1 billion. Again, the peasant mind to be litigating where they could have come up with this $1 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars on World War III. What the fuck are you arguing about? You're playing their game when you argue about that.
And your man Trump, he's all in on sending that money to Israel.
Right.
With Ukraine, he says 10 different things on 10 different days.
It's a loan. Yeah, right. Yeah, loan.
It's a loan. We'll get it back. Yeah. So he's not looking to repatriate those funds. Right. He's not looking to cut off all that money going to these countries. You gotta just realize your government. If you're a working person in America, your country's not that into you.
Right. Yep.
They don't care about you. They don't want to help you. You're not making them money. You'll take the slop they give you and you'll like it.
Yep. Indeed. I was supposed to show these exhibits during the Tulsi segment, but this will make its own clip anyway, because this is relevant to this segment as well. Kamala Harris caught quite the ratio this week. One of the most epic ratios we've seen. People have never seen anything like this. 14,000 likes to 48,000 replies. So what did she say here? The people of Lebanon are facing an increasingly, that is October 5th, so this was yesterday, right? In the wake of what we've been talking about these past couple of segments, which is the devastation in the southeast of this country, not Lebanon. The people of Lebanon are facing an increasingly dire humanitarian situation. I am concerned about the security and well-being of civilians suffering in Lebanon and will continue working to help meet the needs of all civilians there. To that end, the United States will provide nearly $157 million in additional assistance to the people of Lebanon for essential needs such as food, shelter, water, protection, and sanitation to help those who have been displaced by the recent conflict. This additional support brings total U.S. assistance to Lebanon over the last year to over $385 million. Quite the tone-deaf thing to tweet out. So much so, the reason this ratio is as epic as it is because she got it from both ends. So the based people, our people, Omar Badar says, it's amazing that the cause of this humanitarian situation doesn't appear once in your tweet. Israel is destroying Lebanon. This is not a natural disaster. Stop giving Israel bombs to destroy Lebanon, and you could save the aid money too. Empire of Lies. Here's an idea. Cut off all U.S. weapons to Israel immediately. Sabby Sab says, stop lying. You sent the weapons. And on the right, you have N Wokeness saying, what about the people of North Carolina? And you have Greg, fairly viral right of center account recently. I hope you're talking about Lebanon, North Carolina. Dustin Grage says, read the fucking room. Yeah, you catch a ratio like that when you piss off both ends. So Kamala Harris there really uniting left and right who criticized that tweet from different angles. You obviously have the hypocrisy that we are funding Israel's destruction of Lebanon. And so how dare you say if we have an interest in the dire humanitarian situation of Lebanon? And then look, the right wingers, they have a point too. They have a point too. It's tone deaf to be talking about all the money you're sending to Lebanon in a crisis that we helped create in Lebanon by funding Israel. Of course, they very conveniently leave that part out. But they do have a point of like, hey, a third of your country is literally drowning right now. An entire band of your country is literally drowning right now. And this is what you tweet out. Yeah, that's how you get it from both sides. That's like when Biden's motorcade rode through one of those towns. I forget the town. And you had the pro-Palestine protesters and the MAGA protesters both chanting "fuck Joe Biden" at the same time for different reasons. That's like this tweet. That's what this was.
Well, see, she is a uniter.
She is a uniter. That's right.
Yeah, that is that really demonstrates the position they're in a lot of respects, because they know that their policy in regards to Israel is deeply unpopular, particularly with a portion of voters that they're relying on in swing states like Muslims.
Right.
So they feel a need to say that they're doing something, but it's very much like the line in Apocalypse Now where he says, it was the way we had over here. We'd cut them in half with a machine gun and then hand them a Band-Aid.
Right.
This is very much that. We're funding the genocide, but we're also going to pay for tents. We're going to pay for tents. We're going to pay for some MREs for you guys. Right. I think they were just thinking about, well, we have to try to make it look like we care about Arab lives for any Arabs who still might be open to voting for us. And they didn't even think about how that was going to look in regards to what's happening in our own country. I have always said this with Trump. We go back and forth on this. It's anyone's, who knows? It to repulsive candidates, who knows in the end who the American people are going to decide is the lesser evil between the two. But I have always thought Trump is very lucky in his enemies. He has always been very lucky in who he has to run against. And if anyone could lose again to Trump, it's these people. But if anyone could lose to these people, it's Trump.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Well said. Good point, Charles. All right, folks, we're going to take one more game break. This is an important ad read given what's been going on these past few days. This is for Rumble Premium. So this sponsorship is from Rumble, and it's one that's incredibly important to the survival of the company. So when Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They did not censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on issues like COVID, but they did. And Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. That was the letter that Mark Zuckerberg wrote about a month back. Rumble did not censor. They did not cave to that pressure. They held the line, and they're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to audiences like you. They're attacked in the corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to preserve it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers as they don't get much of it. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in the fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. That is the ad-free version of the Rumble platform. So join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. If you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we are just happy to have you watch us on the platform. And yes, the support for free speech media infrastructure is more important than ever. More important than ever. Yep.
And I suspect whoever wins this election, it's going to be really important after that.
Absolutely.
I think either way it goes, you're going to get a speech crackdown. As Kim pointed out, in the end, these tech platforms make their own decisions.
Right.
The censorship got worse when Trump became president.
Right.
The Twitter files, what the Twitter files reveal was during the Trump presidency.
Right.
That was happening.
Right.
So to think, no, Trump gets in, the censorship's going to get better. Why would you think that? And then on the other side, with a continuation of the Biden administration via Harris, these are the people who sent the IRS to Matt Taibbi's house after he testified, who did something that brazen to intimidate a journalist.
Exactly. And, just so everybody understands, there's not an entirely, we're not trying to draw a false equivalence between the two parties. What we're saying is that under Trump, the tech companies took it upon themselves to censor to fight Trump.
Exactly.
And under Biden, they're censoring at the behest of Biden. Right. But either way, they will censor more. Absolutely. I think you're right about that. Bonzo Beans says George Bush doesn't care about people. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. I know the reference. Cool Blue says, if my area Detroit Tigers doesn't rep the AL to go to the 2024 World Series, may it be the New York Yankees or Kansas City Royals or Cleveland. Terrible rename. That's right, the Cleveland Guardians. Thank you, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. Hey, your Tigers are having a fairy tale season as well. That's like in a movie, the Tigers, where the team sucks all year and then they get hot at the end. T.S. Crasher, thanks for the $5. The right-wingers sound like communists. The government needs to help us. Cool. What else can the government do for us? Thank you. T.S. Crasher, appreciate that. Hillary Hinton says, mentioned this year before, but it bears repeating. Weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025 is a 1996 U.S. Air Force report. Look it up. Luis Brooks, thanks for the $5. We are in a CR. He is playing poker to get more money in their budget. It is all a game for them. Thank you, Louise Brooks. Appreciate that. Here we go. Do people really think the death toll for the hurricane is just over 200 when the entire communities were wiped out? They did the same thing in Lahaina underreporting. Well, there's also a lot of people missing right now. So it will go up from there. Here we go. Miserable Lib says, I'm sorry, guys, but if we gave our citizens money for disaster relief, healthcare, housing, etc., where would the money come from to bomb 16,000 Palestinian children to fulfill a perverted Zionist project? Amen. Yep. Indeed, Miserable Lib. Thank you for that. Stephen Shepard says, government help aid. You seem surprised. Thank you, Stephen Shepard. Tony B says, come back to the light, Keaton. Thank you for the $10, Tony B. Brendan McNamara says, FYI, even bigger hurricane due in Florida Wednesday. Yeah, I hear there is another hurricane coming in. Christian, thanks for the $2, says, come on, Keaton, go there. I'm sipping and smoking, LOL. Yeah, I know. Yeah, some people like it. Some people like it. What are you going to do? Can't please everybody every time. All right, folks. We got 1,500 in the YouTube chat, 1,700 in the Rumble chat. Thank you guys very much for being here. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that follow button over on Rumble. Couple more things to take care of here before we head over to the Q&A. So David Axelrod on his podcast gave a pretty interesting quote here. He says Democrat voters in Asheville, North Carolina are smarter, wealthier, and will show up to vote for Kamala, while he thinks Trump voters won't. This is why Kamala and Biden aren't helping. They benefit from the disaster that is Clay Travis's take on that. But here is David Axelrod giving quite the piece of sound on his Axe Files podcast.
Question about North Carolina. You had these killer storms, which, by the way, was a third big story this week.
Yes,
These
another
storms. And there's a lot of displacement in western North Carolina. Now, Asheville is a blue dot in that area, but there are a lot of Republican voters
Asheville's
there.
key.
But those voters in Asheville are, they're, the kind of voters who will figure out a way to vote. They're upscale, kind of liberal voters, and they're probably going to figure out a way to vote. I'm not sure a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in western North Carolina in the mountains there are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign.
So we think that the MAGA voters are going to end up wiping their asses with the mail-in ballots, whereas the more upscale voters in liberal bastions like Asheville keep backstock of toilet paper, and so they will not have to do that. And I will tell the MAGA voters who are perpetually concerned about election integrity, if there is a shit stain on your ballot when it arrives at the precinct, it will not be counted. Even if you shit inside the lines, even if you use that shit stain to indicate your choice, shit stains will not be accepted on the ballots. That is quite something. So yeah, the rich people in Asheville, the rich libs, are smart enough to figure out how to vote under these circumstances, but MAGA isn't.
Yeah, well, this really is the basket of deplorables thing.
Oh yeah, big time.
This is really a mask off moment. Not that they wore the mask very tightly before. This is what they think of half the country, more than half the country. This is what they think of you if you're rural. This is what they think of you if you're poor. This is what they think of you if you didn't go to college. This is what they think of you if you work with your hands. They think you're a lesser form of human, and this is a very old class attitude. It goes way back in American history. This goes back to the indentured servants, and there has always been this wealthy white class that despises that white working class.
Yep.
Thing is, they used to be Republicans, and now they're Democrats. That class is largely made up of Democrats now.
Yes. Yep. But he wasn't the only one to speculate as to how this might influence the election. Politico says Helene hit Trump strongholds in Georgia and North Carolina. It could swing the election. So, yes, the Washington media getting a little excited at the windfall this might create for Kamala Harris, although I think they are miscalculating, because if I had to guess, I would say that this government response where you have people trying to email FEMA for their $750 creates a lot more resentment towards the government than whatever votes you are going to net gain from the fact that some Trump voters are flooded out of their homes and can't get the mail-in ballots in and can't make it on the day of. But they speculate Hurricane Helene hit especially hard in heavily Republican areas of Georgia and North Carolina, a fact that could work to Donald Trump's disadvantage in the two swing states. Research has shown that major disasters can influence both voter turnout and voter preference, and Helene has pushed this contest into novel territory. It's the first catastrophic event in U.S. history to hit two critical swing states within 6 weeks of a presidential election, based on a Politico's E&E News analysis of data compiled by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The challenge for Trump: the parts of western North Carolina and eastern Georgia that were flooded by the monster storm are largely Republican. In 2020, he won 61% of the vote in North Carolina counties that were declared a disaster after Helene. He won 54% of the vote in Georgia's disaster counties. Both Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris this week visited Georgia, a state that Biden won by just 11,779 votes in 2020. Georgia and North Carolina each have 16 electoral votes, and polls show that Trump is leading Harris by about 1 percentage point in each state, well within the margin of error. There's going to be a lot of voting alterations, and it probably is going to affect turnout, says Andy Jackson, director of the John Locke Foundation's Civitas Center for Public Integrity, a free market think tank in North Carolina. Now, both states face crucial decisions in the next few days about how to help people register and vote after massive flooding ripped away roads, shuttered towns, and dispersed residents. Those include whether to extend next week's voter registration deadlines, grant more time for voters to cast absentee ballots, and set up new polling places in areas where floods destroyed roads. State records show that nearly 40,000 absentee ballots were mailed to voters in the 25 North Carolina counties that were declared as a disaster following Helene. Fewer than 1,000 have been returned. In eastern Georgia's heavily Democratic Richmond County, 3 of 4 early voting sites appear to be undamaged, County Elections Chief W. Travis Doss Jr. said Friday. Doss's staff has also reached out to all 43 Election Day sites to determine their status, but has not heard back from about 30 of them due to power and internet outages. Until we get out there to assess for power and whatnot, I'm not sure what the situation will be, Doss said. Right now, of course, our immediate concerns were absentee and voting registration, and then the next step is early voting, and the next step is voting day. Helene hit some predominantly Democratic communities hard too, adding to the uncertainty. In North Carolina, Buncombe County was affected in really bad ways, and that is a liberal bastion, said Chris Cooper, a political scientist at Western Carolina University. And Watauga is in really bad shape, also a blue-leaning county. When the North Carolina legislature meets Wednesday, it could give counties money for emergency polling places and extend both the October 11th registration deadline and the Election Day deadline for mail-in ballots to be received. And in Georgia, where Monday is the last day to register to vote, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger said in a statement that physical infrastructure will be in place when early voting starts October 15th. Counties having to relocate early voting locations must notify voters, Raffensperger added. So they seem to think that the just raw effect of the fact that the hurricane hit red counties more than blue counties is going to be a net gain for Kamala. I don't agree with that. I think when you're the incumbent and you are the executive presiding over what is clearly an inadequate response, at the same time, like we covered in the last segment, there seems to be hundreds of billions of dollars that they could just, at will, send across the world. I think that is going to create a backlash. I think this will hurt Kamala much more than it will help. Especially since these states she's already down. I mean, it's very, very close, which is why this article was written. Because in a very, very close race, anything can happen. But, I mean, this has to hurt Kamala. How could this not hurt Kamala?
Yeah, I mean, something he's not thinking of also is, do libs like being abandoned by the government?
Exactly. Do they like drowning? Yeah,
exactly. Do they like not being able to get aid when their houses have been destroyed? I mean, the liberals are a special bunch. But I don't think that's going to benefit them with anybody. And also remember those deplorables that you hate so much. They're going to be highly motivated to vote against the people who left them to their fate. And people will really take extraordinary measures to make sure they vote under circumstances like that. So, no, I don't think that's an accurate reading of the situation. But I do think it's a very revealing one in terms of the headspace that Axelrod and his class live in and how they see the American people.
Yes, that is well said. I agree with that. All right, folks. We got one more segment, and then we will be heading over to Rumble for our Q&A. Please do join us. Go ahead.
All right. So on the intermission, I'm trying to do something different every week. So this week, I've got one of my favorite videos. It's an old one, but most of you won't have seen it. It's not very visible. Having been out of town, come back to New York. You know, if you're a real New Yorker, man, you really miss it when you're out of town. So this is a very New York video where a guy is commenting on a insider food channel that discovered chopped cheese in Harlem.
There you go. Awesome. I look forward to it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's a very fun video. It's very funny.
Bonzo Beans, thanks for the $1. Sorry to bring this up, but the FEMA has no money BS deserves an honorable mention of MMT. Money is a very important topic, especially when it comes to perpetual war as a money laundering operation. Thank you. Contact Rook, thanks for the $1. Keaton, you said you were going to be positive, but you have prefaced every thought with, this is how you know we are in a decaying country. Can't read that second part, but be well there. Be well. Hang on. U.S. empire and U.S. dollar MMT plus biggest honeypot in world history, corruption and depravity won. Thank you. P.W. Walker, I believe Mad TV had a recurring skit called People Not Connected to Reality. The Harris 2024 campaign would definitely qualify for mockery if the show were still around today. Thank you, P. Walker. Appreciate that. Mack Truck, America is the only company that went from barbarism to decadence without civilization in between. Oscar Wilde. Thank you, Mack Truck. Appreciate that. My real name, thanks for the $10. I moved back to the U.S. from Argentina 10 years ago. In that time, I've seen the U.S. become more like Argentina in terms of corruption, dysfunctional institution. Thank you. Appreciate that. Here we go. Janice Anderson, thanks for the $4.99 over on YouTube. The fiscal year is starting on 10/1/24. How exactly did FEMA run out of funds in just 3 to 4 days? What BS are they expecting us to believe now? That's an interesting point, Janice. Thank you for that. Sparky, hey Sparky, thanks for the $5. Western North Carolina was once a bastion for Democrats, probably not anymore. It does have Asheville there, and that's what Axelrod was saying. Asheville, yeah, they're flooded out, but they're rich, so they'll figure it out. That democracy they love so much. Kinky says,
those people have money. They're leaving town.
Right. Kinky, thanks for the $2, says, why aren't they blaming Helene on Russia? Thank you, Kinky. Appreciate that. Where's Skill? Thanks for the $5. Real Billboard in Boone, North Carolina. Vote Kamala. She'll keep you safe by funding NATO and the military. Thank you, Where's Skill. Appreciate that. I think North Carolina is the biggest military state, right, by enrollment in America. I think the per capita, I think it has the highest military enrollment. Brad Gilbert, thanks for the $2. Cheney, Katrina, Kamala, Helene, who endorsed her? Thank you, Brad Gilbert. Appreciate that very much. Bonzo Beans, R.E. Trump versus Kamala censorship. I disagree with Kim. Censorship by private platforms is a huge difference from the totalitarian state power shit, not in the short term, but in the mid to long term. Yeah, but the Democrats are using the power of the private sector to censor speech. They're not circumventing it. That was the whole Supreme Court decision. Is, hey, we're just making a suggestion, and the Supreme Court ruled that they're allowed to do that. Right?
We're just going to put it in the suggestion box right over here.
Exactly.
You do with it what you will.
Exactly. Okay. All right. We have one more story. Then we're going to finish up our Rumble rants and super chats, and then we're going to end the show and go to the Q&A. So, folks, if you want to head over to Rumble now for the Q&A, it's dudissidents.com/Rumble. That'll get you directly to this stream. All right. One more story on the night. We sit here as we do this segment October 6th. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of October 7th, and we wanted to highlight this op-ed in The Guardian by a Palestinian living in the United States, Arwa Madawi. As a Palestinian living in the U.S., I've lost friends, job opportunities, and my faith in humanity, by Arwa Madawi. We're going to read this whole op-ed. It's not very long, but it is quite powerful. It has been a year of heartbreak, a year of horror, a year of hell. I know I am not alone when I say this has been the very worst year of my life. I have lost friends, I have lost job opportunities, and most of all, I have lost my faith in humanity. But before I get into that, let me fulfill my duty as a good diaspora Palestinian and recite the obligatory incantation, I condemn Hamas, I condemn Hamas, I condemn Hamas. We Palestinians, you see, are not allowed to open our mouths without someone demanding we denounce violence and condemn Hamas. And then we are told to shut our mouths, to stay silent, while the very same people demanding we decry violence salivate over our deaths and celebrate murder on an unimaginable scale. Anyone an Israeli kills is an act of self-defense. Anyone an Arab kills is an act of terrorism. These are the rules we all must abide by. The U.S. have never been shy about how much it hates Arabs. But ever since 7th October, that hatred has shot to such disturbing new levels that I no longer feel at home in this country. Were it not for the fact that I have built a life and a family here, I would get the hell out. Why would I want to stay in a country where Palestinians are so dehumanized that elected officials such as Senator Lindsey Graham can fantasize about dropping an atomic bomb on Gaza, a place where half of the population are children, without facing any meaningful censure? Where John Fetterman, who is my senator, openly mocks pro-Palestinian protesters and seems to take immense joy in our pain. And then there's the fact that simply by paying my taxes, I am complicit in the slaughter and starvation of my own people. Increasingly, I can't rationalize living in a country where such a large portion of my taxpayer dollars is spent on funding war and what Kamala Harris has gleefully described as the most lethal fighting force in the world. I live in Philadelphia, where the schools are so underfunded that just 4 out of more than 200 schools have full-time librarians, and 98% of school buildings' drinking outlets have tested positive for lead. There is no money for schools in the U.S. There is plenty of money to help bomb schools in Gaza. Again, the U.S. has never been shy about how much it hates Arabs, and Palestinians in particular. Well before October 7th, I was subject to plenty of racism on that front. I've had innumerable people tell me that I can't possibly be Palestinian because Palestinians don't exist. Still, even though I thought I was numb to how dehumanized we are, the bloodlust has shocked me. At the time of the Hamas attack, I was taking a break from my Guardian column to work on a corporate copywriting gig with a large ad agency. The internal Slack channel for the agency immediately filled with people cheering on the bombing of Gaza. I was in too much of a state of shock to say anything to the agency's leadership, and if I'm honest, I was too cowardly. It's hard to make a living as a freelance writer, and I normally depend on a few corporate gigs a year. I didn't want to lose future opportunities by speaking up, so I kept my mouth shut, my head down, and waited for the bombing to stop. But of course, the bombing hasn't stopped. 10,000 dead Palestinians, 20,000 dead Palestinians, 30,000 dead Palestinians, 40,000 dead Palestinians. There doesn't seem to be any number of dead Palestinians that will satisfy Israel or that will make politicians in the U.S. finally say, enough. For a while, I was delusional enough to think the ascent of Harris might mark a change for the better, but the vice president has refused to shift on Joe Biden's unconditional weapons policy. She has refused to acknowledge international law. When she was crowned the Democratic nominee in August, the party leadership refused to put a Palestinian American on the main stage for even a minute. That's how little the Democrats think of us. As the death toll mounts, as the humanitarian situation in Gaza and now Lebanon grows increasingly desperate, politicians across both sides of the aisle in the U.S. keep telling Palestinians that our suffering is all our own fault. Let's remember where all this started. October 7th. Harris repeated this line during her debate with Donald Trump. Tim Walz repeated this line in his debate with J.D. Vance. But that line is a lie. History did not start on October 7th, 2023. While that date may mark a tragedy for Israel, every single day for the last 76 years has marked some sort of catastrophe for Palestinians. My paternal grandparents originally lived in Haifa. In 1948, during the Nakba, they were among the 700,000 Palestinians forced to flee or expelled by Israel. Their home was demolished. They lost everything. Eventually, they made it back to the West Bank, but then in 1967, my father had to flee again. He became a refugee, unable to ever return to live in the country where he was born. He has, however, taken me back to visit. I went back to his village when I had just turned 6 and had a brief taste of what a Palestinian childhood is like, by which I mean Israeli soldiers shot tear gas at me and raided our village to burn the Palestinian flag. History did not start on the 7th of October, but as the world stops to mourn it, will forever be a reminder of whose lives matter. So I wanted to read that straight through in its entirety because it's a very powerful article. I didn't want to interrupt with my commentary. But, back when she says she had this corporate gig in October of last year. And after the attack happened, the internal Slack was filled with bloodlust for her people, and that she didn't speak out because she was afraid of losing her job. She was afraid of not only losing her job, but getting blacklisted to the point where she would not be able to support herself as a writer anymore. This is the kind of censorship that Israel and Israel supporters advocate for. You know, don't forget when Bill Ackman was on that run trying to get these college professors, you know, fired from their jobs, really smearing these student protests. That's when a guy like RFK, who, you know, puts himself out there as a big champion for free speech, he was retweeting Bill Ackman through that. So, you know, like I said, I didn't want to interrupt the flow there, but that part stood out to me. I mean, the whole thing is emotionally very powerful.
Well,
but
that
the
also,
fact, yeah, because there's been a lot of ink spilled over how insecure Jewish students are made to feel on campus because of these protests. But there's been almost no ink spilled about stuff like that. Yeah.
Can you imagine if a bunch of Palestinians on an internal Slack channel started talking about how happy they were about October 7th? Forget about it.
Right.
Forget about it. But it's perfectly acceptable for them to speak like that. It's disgusting. I'm already seeing Zionists. Tomorrow, do whatever you need to do for your health. If you need to rage.
That's what we need, more of their rage. That's what the world needs. We haven't had enough Israeli rage.
They're not
this past year.
expressing themselves enough.
Yeah.
Trigonometry has a video up right now, which I appreciate the honesty of, actually. They have some fucking disgusting psychopath talking about how, well, Israel wants this to be the last war. Well, on that, we are in agreement. They're saying the soft part out loud, but as a positive.
Right.
Yes, they're doing this to wipe out all opposition. That's why they won't stop. That's why they keep thwarting, aside from the fact that Netanyahu doesn't want to go to prison and his corruption prosecution has been suspended because of the war. Aside from that, this is the master plan. They're going for it. Greater Israel, baby.
Right. Yep. And so we thought we should end the show on that note. Very, 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 very well-written piece that is published in The Guardian. Encourage you to find that and share that. The title, so it'll make it easier to find in case you'd like to share this around. As a Palestinian living in the U.S., I've lost friends, job opportunities, and my faith in humanity. And, every day has been a horror for these people. Every day has been a horror. And then you got people saying, hey, tomorrow do what you got to do. Self-care. What about Palestinian Americans who have had to stomach the systematic slaughter of their people every day for a year? And a year later, not only has this not stopped, it has been expanded. It has been expanded. And I see somebody in the chat here quoting Tim Walz. The expansion of Israel is an absolute necessity for the United States.
Yeah, no, they're all disgusting, genocidal warmongers on all sides. Trump, Harris. This is why I have no patience in either direction for people who try to pretend these are moral arbiters. Trump literally bragged in front of an audience about how quickly his knees hit the floor for the Adelsons.
Yep.
This is a man. This is what you see as a man. That's your idea of manhood.
Big tough guy. Yeah.
That's a tough guy. Yeah, they were surprised. I got it done in about 45 minutes.
Right.
That's your champion of masculine virtues, this trust fund plutocrat. And of course, Harris and Waltz, it goes without saying, it's almost more profane because they feel a need to project caring for the people that they're slaughtering because of the different base that they need to hoodwink to stay in power. It's just horrible. And the Zionists, they still just keep, it really doesn't matter what proof there is. They just keep repeating the same lies about what happened on October 7th. We are not saying that atrocities were not committed, but there are many claims like beheaded babies and babies in ovens that have been thoroughly debunked. And because they only go to whatever bizarre world news sources cater to their fantasies, they just keep repeating this shit.
Yep.
Like, like this is well established reality. It's incredible how out of touch they are. These people think that Hamas keep rejecting peace deals. They're just completely brainwashed.
Yep. And on that front, I'm glad you mentioned that, because our friends at the Gray Zone have about a 40-minute documentary, which they are putting out on their channel tomorrow, talking about all the propaganda surrounding that event. And once again, we are not denying that war crimes took place and that horrible violence took place, but obviously the framing, and not just the framing, some of just outright dishonesty that has been since debunked, has been used to justify the systematic extermination of a people. And Max has a documentary coming out about that tomorrow. They're going to drop. So check out the Gray Zone tomorrow. Obviously, I trust most of you guys are already subscribed there, but do subscribe and check that out when it drops tomorrow. It's probably going to be up for about 3 hours before it's pulled. But so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you catch it.
That's living dangersely. Putting that on YouTube tomorrow.
Yeah, especially in this climate, which we'll talk more about on the Q&A. All righty, folks. We're going to read some more Rumble rants and super chats, and then we will head over to Rumble for the Q&A. Thank you guys very much for being here tonight. You guys are the best. We got 1,700 over in the Rumble chat right now. Let's get people over there for the Q&A. We'll have a good time with our callers. My real name, thanks to the $10. Inflation, though to a much smaller degree. Fudged statistics, crumbling infrastructure. I could go on for another $100 worth of rants. Well, please do. Please do, my real name.
Yeah.
Argentines, however, exactly. We know how to deal with political and economic instability. I don't think Americans know what is coming. Well, you're right about that, my real name. Thank you.
Forget about it, man. This country is going to freak when they can't afford their monthly Netflix anymore.
That's right. Miserable Lib, thanks for the $2. I never called in, guys. How do you do it? Well, if you're a supporter, you should have gotten a call-in link. There is a link to call in on the email that you received. So, Miserable Lib, I don't know if you're on Patreon, Substack, pardon me, or Locals, but in your email that you got telling you, hey, shows at 7 o'clock on Sundays, there's a special call-in link for the paid subscribers. So click that link to call in. We hope to see you soon. Cool Blue, thanks for the $5. These swing states typically line up like a consensus to carry for a presidential election winner. Georgia and North Carolina will do this, along with Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So you're saying there won't be any outliers. As goes one, will go all. Thank you, Cool Blue. Hey, Cool Blue, see if you can get your mic working, because you tried calling in last time. I'd like to hear from you, especially as the election approaches. Web Angel PB, Keaton, crush or grate some ginger and garlic, bring to a boil, turn off, and let seep for 3 to 5 minutes. Drink warm as is or with a bit of honey throughout the show. Also lay off any canned drinks and junk food. Yeah, I should have actually made some stuff for the show. Though my voice and my throat feel much better now. Now it's just like a little cough every once in a while.
You know what I have found actually works? You would think it's a wives' tale. Hot toddies, man.
Oh, yeah, no, they work. Yeah.
Yeah. That shit actually works.
Oh, yeah. That's a real thing. Hey, let's get the cowbell out for $100 from Lisa. Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Really appreciate it. Loved your speech, Russell, and enjoyed both your interviews. Free Palestine.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Yes, that is very generous of you, very kind of you. And yes, the Rumble rants are super helpful, so thank you very much for that. We appreciate that very much. Cool Blue 71 forgot Arizona. Forgive me. You're forgiven, Cool Blue. Appreciate it. Winnetou Livre Keaton, do not lose yourself in irrational positivity. The pill is black as night and as big as all outdoors. See? Some of you guys are a negative influence on me. Stoop sign, lead in the bullets or lead in the water. Either way, the U.S. government wants to put lead in your head. Thank you, Stoop sign. Appreciate that.
I like that.
Paul Chu says, F the world, member for 15 months. There you go, Paul Chu. Tusker, thanks for the $20. Destroying the opposition is the ethnic cleansing and genocide of the indigenous population. Right on. We got another $100 donation from Mac Truck. Let's get that cowbell out again. That's very generous of you, Mac Truck. Thank you. Question, why am I here? Answer, support independent media. Question, why do dissidents? Answer, bad news, good news, funny news. I appreciate the fantastic work that you both do. Buckle up. Well, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much, man.
Oh, so much. Thank you, Mac Truck. Very much. We appreciate all you guys very, very much. As this censorship bears down on us, we are relying on you guys. You guys are the guys who have our backs. Nobody else. Nobody else. It is getting very, very scary out there. Stoop sign.
In the words of the late Paul Mooney, don't like us too much because they'll take us.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll take us away.
Sparky says, break it off in BlackRock, make Ukraine Russia again. How dare you say that, Sparky? How dare you? That's what you have to say. That's what YouTube tells us we have to say when we get a chat like that now.
You Putin puppet.
Yeah, Putin, but misinformation.
Spreading dangerous misinformation.
That's hate.
Yeah. Very hateful.
Very hateful.
That is the verbal equivalent of dragging us behind a truck.
That's right. Yeah, I do not feel safe as a result of that, Sparky. I don't appreciate you, bringing that kind of negativity to this very positive space. Thank you, Ken Texican, for the $50. Appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. Would love to collaborate with you guys on a slightly different version of a Dr. Seuss classic retitled Horton Hears a Hasbara. There you go. That's a nice idea. I like that.
Funny.
That would be funny. Thank you for that generous donation. Appreciate it very much. Sparky. Oh, you did that one already. Sorry. Isikasha Russ. You have to do the nipple eyeballs in Gothic 1987 as your costume for the tour.
Wow, man. I don't think I've seen that since the 80s.
Yeah, that is
that's an old one, man.
That's an obscure one.
That's Gothic. That's Ken Russell, right? Wasn't that Ken Russell?
I don't know. That was wow. 1987. Ken Texican, how are there only 334 likes on Rumble? There's probably more. Sometimes you have to refresh to get the like count on Rumble. Hey, Jake, what are we at for likes on Rumble? No, 334. You're right. Yeah, there should be more. Smash that like button over on Rumble. Good point, Ken Texican. Appreciate it. Sparky says, make Israel Syria again. In those Ottoman Empire days, Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. Thank you very much. Oh, Sparky's doing this to troll. Break it off in BlackRock. Make Ukraine Russia again. Sparky is your last warning. Last warning, Sparky. We cannot tolerate this any longer.
Yes, it's Ken Russell.
Okay, beautiful. Salamander Fry, thanks to the $10. Hey, you guys are all right over on YouTube. And Kuznetsky Bassane for $49.99. Let's get a cowbell for Kuznetsky Bassane. Says, we've got your backs, DD.
Making it rain.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you for having our backs. Thank you all.
Thank you
very much for being here. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have been referring to in more vague terms so as to not offend our AI friends here who keep their eye on us. But we're also going to be taking your calls. So the phone lines are now open. We appreciate you all very much for being here. Thank you, Jake, in the chat. Thank you to our YouTubers. Thank you to our Rumblers. Russell now makes a customized intermission every week. That's going to go on for about 5 minutes while we make the switch over to Rumble for the Q&A. Please do
stick
stay
around
tuned
for it. It's really, really a funny commentary on gentrification via an examination of some white girls coming to Harlem and discovering chopped cheese.
No, right, exactly. My real name says Rumble tells you to recite disclaimers for Rumble rants. You guys, Jimmy and the Duran, are the only channels I support now. No, Rumble doesn't make us do it, but you have to keep in mind, my real name, you're chatting on Rumble, but we're broadcasting both places.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes. No, Rumble has been phenomenal to us, and everybody is now learning that. Everybody's now learning that in real time. Analog Winter, thanks for the $10. Keaton, I'm with you in the Watch It Burn crowd. Hopefully a reset happens sooner than later. Ceasefire now.
Accelerationist,
yes. Dangerous speak. And we need to do an ironic podcast for YouTube. We that's what we really need to do. If we get fucked by YouTube, we'll restart a Blue MAGA shitlib show. And the whole show will be like Borat. The whole show will be like Ali G. It'll all be one giant gag. It'll all be character. It'll all be shtick. That would be funny.
That would be fun.
And the real fun of that is we would attract smart audiences like you guys who are in on the joke, but we're also going to pull in a lot of shit libs who unironically appreciate what we would say. That could be that's a fun backup plan.
I'll do Marvin Applebaum.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Dye our hair blue. I'll dye my hair blue. Yeah.
Chappell Roan, she claims to care about the trans community. Don't you know the Republicans want to kill them all?
Yeah, exactly. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. All righty, folks. We thank you very much for being here. Round of applause for Jake in the chat on the way out. But on your way out, make sure you head over dudissidents.com/rumble. We got more fun for you guys. We're going to start our Q&A in 5 minutes after a brief intermission at dudissidents.com/rumble. If you're heading out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button on the way out. But don't head out. Hang out with us. We brought in the show in reasonable time tonight so we could stay up a little late with our followers and our patrons. Thank you guys all very, very much for being here. We appreciate you all. Until we see you again, be it in 5 minutes or on Tuesday at 2 p.m., whether that is our next live show. Until we see you again, be safe and be well. 5-minute intermission starts now, followed by the Q&A.
Courage!
Please clap.